What's up and welcome to Retcon Air. This is the Plotline Repair Podcast, and like the name suggests, this is a podcast that takes a look at the plot lines of movies, TV shows, books, video games, even Broadway shows, looks at who wrote it, how it was received, how we interacted with it, and then we take a walk through the main points of the story, and of course, we look at what we do different if we had the chance to take the reins for a year or two and maybe spend some time with the script. So now, I want to make it clear up top that this is not just a podcast based on shitting on things like Jar Jar Binks. We might get to that. We might have things to say about that, but that's not the sole purpose of this. Really, the purpose of this podcast is just that we love these pieces of work. The scripts that were written, the stories that were written, the video games that we played. We love that stuff enough that we want to share how much we like them and really offer some things that we might do differently. So, if you're into that, stick around as we take a look at what we do if we could retcon the Avengers Endgame. Now today, I am joined by one of my most beautiful, best bouncing baby buddies, Mr. Bryar Fish. Brylander, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me. So I know it's a podcast and it's just audio, so they can't see, but I want to draw attention to that dance you did, because you dabbed and I hate it. So I don't even want to be here anymore.
Well, I think like one of the main reasons I wanted to do a podcast is so I can do things like that, and only you have to suffer about it, except you know, I guess you could talk about it, because they don't have to see it.
I suffered, so they're suffering with me.
All right, so I pitched this idea to you a long time ago, and one of the first episodes I wanted to work on was Endgame. So I've been excited about this for a very, very long time. So are you ready to get into it?
I mean, like, as ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, so I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, this is, like, my max level excitement. This is what I bring to the table.
Okay, so. Cool. I'm okay with mediocre excitement. I'm okay with that.
Thank God.
So, in this podcast, we're going to take a look at a couple different things, and we're going to start with a segment called The Writer's Room. Bryar, since you were the guest today, do you want to take us through what The Writer's Room is?
Like, not really, but sure.
Okay.
So, Writer's Room is where we briefly explain who contributed to the story, break it down, who did what, who wrote it, all that fun stuff. And since Retcon Air, Retcon Air,
Goddamn.
focus on plot lines, we focus on the screenwriters, the authors, you know, all the people who made it happen.
Not that the other crew members aren't dope for helping create the stuff that we love so much, but this is a plotline focused podcast, and so there you have it. So Bryar, who wrote the screenplay to Avengers Endgame?
Avengers Endgame, the screenplay, was written by Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus.
McFeely, great last name. And I think I see here the story was based upon the work, obviously, of Jim Starlin, Jack Kirby, and the legendary Stan Lee.
R.I.P.
Pour one out. So in a future episode, I don't know, we might do a deep dive in the actual source material. I was thinking about that when I was writing this for the movie. For this episode, I want to keep it focused on the plot line of the Endgame movie storyline that everybody's seen. But first, why don't you tell me more about Mr. McFeely? What's his background? What's he done?
Okay, so Mr. McFeely and Christopher Marcus, they have been a writing team since college. They are college buddies, just chilling, writing stuff out, you know, hanging out, having a good time.
Nice.
It honestly probably what makes them so good and so comfortable working together, because they have that history together.
For sure.
Found early success in the Chronicles of Narnia trilogy, so I mean there's a throwback.
Which were those? So I think I saw the first one. Were those pretty well received?
Honestly, I have no idea. I remember the movies, but I don't remember like the hype or reaction to them, if that makes sense.
Great.
I know the first one was pretty good, but like the following ones, I don't think they were as well received.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, you run that risk when you do a trilogy. Like the first one's dope, and then like the other ones, they either are amazing or they're kind of like meh.
Well, they got to make all three of them and it didn't get canceled.
I mean, that should speak for itself.
For
really.
sure.
So yeah, all that was in early 2000s. They got pulled in to write Captain America: The First Avenger in 2011. What else? They did pretty much all the Captain America movies from the Infinity Saga, including Infinity War and Endgame, and Agent Carter, which I'm not familiar with Agent Carter.
So yeah, Peggy Carter from the Captain America series.
Yeah.
Marvel was doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They were getting a lot of success with that, and then they decided they wanted to do this another series focused specifically on Agent Carter. I think I saw a couple of the episodes. I just wasn't that into the character, so I think that was a problem that a lot of other people felt that way as well, and I think that project got killed pretty early. I think maybe 2 seasons? I would have to look at that.
That's kind of hit or miss, too, when you just pull random... Like, I don't want to say, like, not, like, big main characters, because, I mean, like, she had a part in it, but, like,
right.
It's not Captain America, which is what it draws a lot of people in.
Yeah, but if you think about it, I think that more speaks to Stephen McFeely and Mr. Marcus, because I think that they had spent so much time doing the groundwork for like the Captain America series, that they had so much content already for Peggy written that they figured, why don't we just go ahead and just invest that in its own storyline?
I mean, that makes sense.
So maybe if that's what happened, that might not be what happened, but if that is what happened, then maybe that was a really cool thing. But at least they got the shot, and then Haley Atwell, great actress that played Agent Carter, got a chance to do something on her own, which is pretty cool. So I think it's kind of cool that Marcus and McFeely got to spend so much time working together on the projects, because that's exactly what happened with the Russo brothers. I mean, they're the ones that tag teamed a lot of these projects, and I think there's something about working with your partner that really works out. So we have a lot of stuff in here about Steve McFeely. We don't have anything in here for Christopher Marcus that I just noticed.
Way to go.
Well, no, not accurate. So I think when I put this together, I noticed that they have the same careers. So maybe that's why I didn't do both separately, because they have the same exact career path. They both worked the entire time on the Chronicles of Narnia. They both worked on a couple other side projects, and then they both started doing all the Captain America stuff, whatever. So I had a panic attack for a second, because I'm like, why wouldn't I have filled out the other thing for the other guy? It's because I did, and they were identical, and so I stopped.
Yeah, you turned red.
I sure did. I was legitimately having a panic attack. I was like, why would I lift? That seems like a really big detail to lift out. So like, I'm in my head spiraling, and then I'm like, no, you already, okay. Whew. So I feel so much better. I was like, this is going terribly.
Not even, 10 minutes in and already just shit all over it.
Okay, so that's it for Writer's Room. We're going to dive into a segment called Deep Impact. So Deep Impact is just like, when it came out and all that stuff. So the Avengers Endgame released April 26th, 2019 in the USA, and that's where this podcast is being recorded. Bryar and I saw it. I think it had a pretty good impact on the community. Rotten Tomatoes had it sitting at a 94% when I put this together. 78% on Metacritic. Roger Ebert, who's a pretty big deal, gave it 3 out of 4 stars. So let's go into some positive and negative comments. Bryar, why don't you take the top positive comment from Rotten Tomatoes?
All right, so the top positive comment was from Josh, was this Wilding? Wilding. Josh Wilding, because I can read, from comicbookmovie.com, and he says, and I quote, Avengers Endgame is a masterpiece which not only delivers on every expectation you had, but exceeds one you didn't even think about. This isn't just a movie, it's an experience, end quote.
What do you think about that comment? Is that pretty spot on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, in all seriousness, it was a great movie. I mean, if you look at it, because a lot of people were like, oh, like myself included, like, oh, but this happened in the comics, they should have done that, and which again is the whole point of this podcast. But if you step back and just look at it for what it was, its own movie, its own storyline, and everything from all the movies they made, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
The story was great. Had a bunch of people punching each other in the face,
which is great.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I've said this in a couple other places that you got out of Endgame whatever you invested in the 22 movies or whatever it was that came before it. If you had hitched your wagon in the beginning and you were watching all of them as they went and you were part of the continue. I remember that moment where Tony Stark walks up to Thunderbolt Ross at the end of The Incredible Hulk. And I remember how excited we all got, because that was kind of the first time you saw that little connection. And if you were in the beginning when they started launching these movies, if you were part of every one of those really cool, impactful crossover moments, Endgame was the pinnacle of everything. Man. And I think in the very that final battle when it's Thanos' army versus everybody who had just come back, and Doctor Strange looks at Wong and says, "Is that everybody?" And Wong's like, "Did you want more?" Or what you wanted more. I think those little moments are really nods to the people like us who watched all of that stuff and we got to see it grow and expand and stuff like that. And I think because of that, I think this guy's right. It's not just a movie; it's an experience. If you've dedicated the last decade of your life to following this franchise, and Endgame was 100% for you. So
and to go on what you're saying, I could see where people would jump in oh, Infinity War and Endgame, oh, these are cool, I'll just jump in here right now. I could see why you're not as invested. It's still a good movie, but probably it's a lot easier for you to shit on it then, because you don't have all the backstory, you don't have all that time invested in it. You don't watching Tony Stark go from selling missiles and shit to I'm gonna be Iron Man now. Yeah. So I get it.
And I don't know, if you didn't earn it, you're not gonna like it as much. We earned Endgame because of how much time and money and energy we spent thinking about it, talking about it, watching it, and I think Endgame was for us. And I think in a lot of different ways they really gave us quality fan service. So now that we're on a high note about how great we like the movie, let's talk about the most negative comment.
Yeah.
So this one, these are the words of Mr. Barry Hertz of the Globe and Mail. He got to see this movie April 23rd, so a couple days before we saw it, I'm sure a day or two before everybody else saw it, and he took a pretty ballsy swing. So he says, this entire endeavor loses any sense of emotional stakes or general meaning beyond the deliverance of crass fan service and incomprehensible visuals.
Shut up, nerd.
So the thing that really bugs me about this review is it loses any sense of emotional stakes. And I remember watching like that, the intro, not like the soft intro with like Hawkeye, but like the second intro after the intro reel where, you know, it's Tony in space. And I'm like, there's so much emotional construction going on in that little scene alone. And like, you're not even like a full 5 minutes into the movie yet. But then if you back up and you look at that whole Hawkeye scene, like there's so much emotion in both of those things. Like, but if you didn't watch anything before, you know, Infinity War and Endgame, then of course you've got no investment in the characters. How could you possibly care about Clint, about his family, about Tony, about where he's at in space? Like, if you don't have any history with that property, why would you care? There would be it's just a stranger on the screen.
Yeah, the first, 10, 15 minutes of that movie kick you in the emotional dick, like, twice.
Real hard.
Yeah, just so hard. Like, the kind where you just cry, but, like, you don't want people to see you cry.
Right.
But you're full-on ugly girl crying. But, like, which one was it where, the first time we got to meet Hawkeye's family?
I want to say Civil War, but maybe not. Maybe before that. Was it Age of Ultron when they're all running?
That might be it. I was thinking either that or the Winter Soldier. I couldn't remember if it was.
I don't think it was one. If it was anything, I vote Age of Ultron. You guys could write in and let me know if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I think you're wrong. Bryar, I think you're wrong. I challenge the entire internet. You're all wrong. Go ahead.
Bold move. But no, like that alone really kind of. That was like an emotional, like human moment for them too, because it shows Clint with his family and like how he just wants to be with his family because that's why he walked away in the first place, right, and hung up the bow. It it also kind of humanized Banner and Black Widow because like they had that whole romance thing going on, and then he just dipped out into space, and then we get Thor Ragnarok. So
yeah. About that, we'll worry about that later. I'm not ready to talk about that yet. How did we see it? I said that we watched it together. You know, you and me and a couple other buddies, Nick and Chris, we saw it together. And then I saw it again by myself a few days before all the bonus garbage came out when they were trying to beat Avatar. It was Avatar. And so, like, it wasn't about me not wanting to see the extra footage. It was about me having that evening before it released to watch the movie one more time in theaters. Because I just think that there are some movies where you have to see them in a movie theater or you're not going to get the full experience.
Oh, for sure.
So then outside of us watching together, like I think you watched it with Shelps, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Did you watch it with all the new bonus stuff, or did you watch it before?
No. And honestly, I saw the bonus scenes, I'm going to use air quotes and call them scenes, online, like after they had released that, people record or whatever, and like, hey, this is what's happening.
Right.
And like, honestly, I would have been pissed had I paid the movie just to see those bonus scenes and like got those half-finished scenes that they put out. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, yeah, they add a little bit of story, but, like, I don't know. I personally was kind of against the whole re-release of, like, hey, here's an extra 15 minutes. Give me your money again.
Well, and it felt really insincere. It was, like, it was a value statement. It wasn't about, hey, there was this stuff that we couldn't pack into the first movie. It was, guys...
We need to beat Avatar.
We're so close to Avatar. Like, can you come with us and like help us do that? And like,
we need to beat those giant blue bitches.
And no, we didn't need to help you because, like I said earlier, we have spent the last decade supporting everything that you've done. We're not gonna now. You know what? Whatever. It's fine.
And I mean, and you have to go to that point. Like, you have all this time, all these backstories, all these movies, all these diehard fans coming in and seeing your movie. And like, look, if you fell short of Avatar, you fell short of Avatar. Like, still put out a killer movie, still made a butt ton of money on it. Just take the win,
Well, and I don't know. So, like, we did positive and negative comments, and, and we're talking about reception. You and I both saw it multiple times in theaters, and I think the reason it performed so well is because multiple people did. There was so many things that happened. There were so many, as we're about to go into a segment called There and Back Again, where we break down the story, but there's so many different threads that we have to follow that you can't get it all in the first time, and then you definitely can't put as much impact into what you didn't see without seeing the stuff that came before it. So I don't know. It's a very complicated, complex movie that warrants warrants multiple viewings, which is rare. It warrants
multiple viewings, and honestly, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by not watching all the previous movies. Because again, back to reference, like the first time we see Clint's family, I feel like you need that moment to really feel, the pain and just being purely terrified that he was at the beginning of Endgame when his family's just gone.
Yeah, and so even we'll go on that to us. Yeah, actually, let's get right to it. So we're about to talk about that scene specifically. So
cool.
There and Back Again is a segment where we really just break down the entire story. Bryar, why don't you just start by giving us the synopsis of the movie, and then we'll go down and we'll just actually really quickly work through the storyline. You could use a cool movie announcer voice if you like.
Nah, I'm just gonna quickly proofread your script because I read it beforehand.
Well, this is, I think I just copy and pasted this from, like, IMDb or something, like, whatever their...
That sounds right.
...synopsis was.
Alright, so adrift in space with no food or water, Tony Stark records a message for Pepper Potts as his oxygen supply starts to dwindle. Meanwhile, the remaining Avengers, Thor, Black Widow, Cap, and Bruce Banner must figure out a way to bring back their vanquished allies for an epic showdown with Thanos, the evil demigod who decimated the planet and the universe.
Is he a demigod?
I don't know. You wrote it down. I just read it.
I copy and pasted it. I think he's a Titan. I thought he's from the planet Titan. I didn't think that he was half god.
He's a hybrid between... Yeah, it's not.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and just chunk this out. To start off, I call it the Prologue, McHawkeye Ranch. So we pick up on Hawkeye's ranch with some tutoring between Clint Barton and his daughter Lila. You see the two boys in the back, Cooper and Nathaniel, and his wife Laura. And then I'll start, if you don't mind, by just saying that this was one heck of a somber moment in the Marvel Universe, because to me, this was the question that I had in my head during the entire span between Infinity War and Endgame. What was it like to be left behind? What did it feel like? What did it look like? And I think the opener really shows how horrifying that was to some people. Because and I laugh because I watched the Spider-Man movies with my wife a week or two ago. And in Homecoming, there's a really dark joke about that weird frumpy teacher's wife pretending to blip out, and he just ran off with somebody from his hiking group or her hiking group. And I was like, damn, that's really dark. So then, like, how much other stuff like that happened or whatever. So then with this prologue with Hawkeye Ranch, you see what it looked like, what it could have felt like, for somebody who one moment they're with their family, the kids are about to eat lunch, they're having a little interplay about whoever puts mayonnaise on a hot dog, which is disgusting. But then all of a sudden, he turns once, his family's gone. He turns again, his daughter's gone. And then you kind of see him kind of like almost like trot back because he doesn't even know what direction to run.
Just shock set in.
And he's just screaming their names. And then right, I think before it goes to black, he just kind of like, ah! Like, he doesn't even know what sound is appropriate to make when all of your family suddenly disappears. And, that is the moment that I really, that made me feel like, the Russo brothers, McFeely and Marcus, they really got what this was going to look like, what this was going to feel like. And that's where that was, like, their handshake to me saying, we know where you're at, we know where you've been, let's go.
So, okay. So my turn? This is where I talk now?
I guess if you want.
All right, cool. So, quick question before I dive into that. So, we saw him with an ankle bracelet on because, he's under house arrest or whatever now at this
Correct.
point. So, is that just carryover from, the end of the Civil War whenever they all got locked up and whatnot?
Yes.
Because, so at the end of that, Cap comes in and breaks them all back out.
So what I think happened is Cap was there to break out whoever wanted to join the kind of rogue Avengers.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think the two people that didn't make that call was Scott Lang and Clint Barton because of their families.
They just wanted to go home.
Yeah, Scott had Cassie, Clint had, Lila, the two boys.
2 sons, a daughter, and a wife.
And a wife, yeah. And so, I don't know, it's different now because we're both parents, we're both married. There's a weight that comes with you when you have a family that I think this movie really does take a firm stance on. Hawkeye Ranch was a place, it was, a place of solitude in Avengers Ultron. And they came there, they were really tore down, and they used that place to rebuild.
Cap literally rips the
log in half because he's so yoked. What am I doing with this axe? I just use my hands for this. Just Juno chopping logs. But I think that moment is really clear about, there were, it was always an option. Cap wasn't going to make you do anything. He always wanted you to decide to pick your own side. Whether you're going to be with Tony, whether you're going to be with me, it's always going to be your choice. And Cap wouldn't have even questioned somebody saying, like, I can't do this with you, I gotta be for my family. I don't think he would have questioned that decision at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. So then to go into, just Hawkeye's reaction to everyone disappearing, like, especially the moment when he turns to look for his daughter, and you can still see the ash fade away.
Yeah.
Like, because again, you said we're both parents now, like, I didn't see that moment, like, just shit, like, what would I do if that happened to me? And honestly, I think I'd have, like, the same reaction he did, of just, like, instant shock of, like, what do?
Yeah, I mean, because if you're in a mall or something and you lose sight of your kid for, a second, there's, like, that thing that happens to your stomach where, like, and, where's the kid?
Yeah.
But then to have your entire family...
Well, I mean, even to prove that point, like, I was in the backyard with a little guy the other day, picking up crap out of it from, like, all the, branches falling and shit. Turn around and I don't see him. He's literally just on the other side of his little plaything, like 10 feet from me. But, like, in that moment, instant panic set in.
Yeah.
So, like, I can only imagine how horrifying it would be to just be sitting there and they're gone. And, like, they're in the middle of a field, so it's not like, oh, they're just hiding, they're playing games. Like, they're straight up gone. There's nowhere for them to, like, be hiding just to poke fun at you.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
And I think that's why people beat their kids so much when they play hide and seek, because I think that there's so much emotional issues with, the concept of, like, your family just being gone, that if, a game to that was, I got you, like, you don't know what I just went through.
Start wailing, Dad, I was just hiding behind the couch. Don't you ever hide behind the couch.
I love you so much, it's disgusting. All right, so any other thoughts on Hawkeye Ranch?
No, it's just, that movie opened up with, like I said, a very swift kick in the emotional dick.
Yeah, it was, this movie didn't hold back, I'll give it that.
No, and it really, I don't know, it set the tone, really, for, like, the whole movie of, like, shit, like, this is what's going on. Yeah. Like, all right, buckle up, let's do this. Do you think he just cut the ankle bracelet off himself? Because I do.
Oh, for sure. I don't know that he cut it as much as just reached down and ripped it off and just chucked it into a fire. Probably pissed on it as well. That's what I'm
thinking. Ripped it, threw it in the air, grabbed bow and arrow, and shot it. Ooh. It's still pinned to a tree at his ranch.
Yeah, like that. It's like Injustice 2, I think, where Green Arrow, like, bites his apple, chucks it in the air, and then just rockets an arrow right through the center of it. Same thing. Hawkeye, ankle bracelet, arrow. All right, Chapter 1. I call this one, I went for the head. So after the snap of Infinity War, a fractured Avengers come together after Captain Marvel rescues Iron Man from the icy cold of space. Before we get into this whole part, I guess let's get into that dark scene where it's just Tony and Nebula, and because I actually think there's a lot of fun here. So as somber as that moment was with Hawkeye Ranch, then we get into this kind of like almost fun interplay at like the end of the road, having two characters who usually don't interact, and this is the person that you're going to die with. And really, instead of just doing nothing, they're like playing football, which I thought was
football.
Yeah, a little thing. And it was cool because I think, I don't know, that, like, so Nebula's whole thing was, like, she was never good enough to her father. Gamora bested her in every single thing that they ever did together. She was, Gamora was always the better one. And so then all of a sudden you have Gamora, who's just, pretty good at football. She's trying to stop the football from going. She's trying to understand the rules. And there's a point where she ties him up and he says, now we're one apiece. And I think that's the first time where we actually see her smile. And I didn't catch that until just this recent time where I watched that. Like, I think this is literally the first time Nebula has ever smiled and had fun.
I honestly didn't even catch the smile at all. Like, I'm just taking your word for it that she smiled.
I can confirm because I went back and I paused it because it's, he's holding position, he's talking about it, he's like, we are one apiece, and then she tries again, and she freezes, and then she smiles, and it's like a second, and like you have to pause it on the frame. There's like all these little nods like that are really cool, that are like, it's so much character building in the span of a second, and it's ridiculous. Such good writing, such good direction, such good movie. Then it goes from that really fun kind of light moment on football, and then it goes to a much darker kind of story, because then Tony really sets the stage for what happened. We broke some shit apart, we moved some stuff around, we got a little bit of life out of that, but now she's dead in the water. And if it wasn't for looking into the literal void of space, I'd say that I'm not doing too bad. You very quickly go from this fun moment to this really dark moment. How did that grab you? How did you feel about that?
So, like, the whole message itself was pretty perfect, coming from Tony Stark. It was a very Tony Stark-esque message, which, I mean, kind of goes into the message too at the end of the film too. Like, it just spot on. Mm-hmm. The whole, like, them playing paper football and, like, him talking about, we did this, and we got a couple extra days of fuel, and we did this, and the ship didn't blow up. Like, all of that, like you said, is pretty, lighthearted and everything. It's like, okay, they're not doing too bad. They're gonna, they're just hanging out, bro, chilling, bonding. And then you get, like, to the second half of his message where it's just like, all right, Prob's gonna die. Because, like, oxygen's not a thing I have a lot of. Mm-hmm. It's just, like, it's that emotional roller coaster. It was, like, a little bit of a build-up, like, okay, cool. And then, oh, shit. And it's just another, kick in the old emotional dick.
Yeah, and...
that I didn't need,
So when I went back and watched it again, I think it was when it had just come out on, like, digital download, because that's how I get most of my movies, because it's the, as early as you could watch them, you have to buy it and download, which is fine. So I think I was watching it there, and then I was thinking about it, like, as painful as the ending is for all of us, they did it twice. You made me watch him die twice. Like, I got legitimately mad, and I think I tweeted at the Russo brothers, like, where do you get the balls to make me watch Tony die twice? And I get that, the second after you're like, fuck, he's dead, then Homegirl comes in to save him. But, like, still, you made me think for, what is it, like a 5-second maybe delay as Captain Marvel, comes, it's almost like a shooting star, and then it's brighter, then it's almost an angel, and then it's Captain Marvel. And, but before that sequence of shot, you literally watch him die. And I'm like, come on, man. Why do me like that twice?
See, I get where you're coming from, but, like, for me, like, I knew he couldn't die there because he had to be part of the, like, the final conflict. So, like, I didn't think he was legit dead, but I kind of figured it was going to play out exactly like it did, where he's knocking on death's door, just about 3 breaths away from calling it a day. Yeah. And then, perfect timing, here comes help.
Yeah.
I was not expecting Captain Marvel, though, because he... early on, like, one of the earlier trailers was him talking to, his Iron Man helmet, recording that message.
Yeah.
And he said, waiting for rescue. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't know if you were paying attention, but, like, the entire internet just blew up because when Pepper Potts dons the armor,
the rescue outfit, yeah.
her name's was Rescue.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone's like, oh shit, she's Rescue. Oh my god. And, like, I jumped on that bandwagon. I'm like, yes, that's gonna be so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And, she didn't come save him, so, like, I was a little bit of a letdown. But, I mean, she puts the armor on at the end, so it's still pretty cool. But, like...
yeah, but maybe that's why. Maybe, we'll get to that in a second.
But, yeah, I figured that scene was going to play out exactly like it did because I knew they needed him for the rest of the movie. He's too big of a character to kill off in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I didn't see them trying to pull some bullshit. Well, since there was no oxygen, there was, he's okay. It's just kind of like being frozen or some shit.
Oh, yeah.
Some bullshit science.
Captain America, but in space.
Iron Man in space.
All right, so Captain Marvel rescues Tony. And really, like a champ, she really operates as AAA, takes the entire ship. She could have just rescued both of them. The entire ship is taken back and returned.
How? I mean, they have to go through space. She can't just, like, all right, guys, take them under each arm and skiddly bop her way through space.
I don't know. She's magic. He's got an Iron Man suit. Maybe his Iron Man suit can't fully cover him anymore.
Well, yeah, because at the end of Infinity War, Thanos just beat the piss out of it and essentially just shredded it.
So he just put it on his face.
But, like, it's not the full helmet. It's just, like, the face and, like, basically a headband that goes around the back.
Okay, so that's why she acts as AAA and then tows the entire ship back and then really just drops it, which is fine.
Which, I mean, at that point, too, isn't it his little chest piece? I know it's not, like, embedded in him anymore, but isn't that thing what powers the whole suit still?
Yeah, but I thought that's the thing that he says it in, I think, Infinity War. No, it's in the beginning of Endgame, where he's like, well, this is a housing unit for nanoparts.
Infinity War, I think, is when he says that, because he was jogging with...
Oh, Pepper. That's right.
Park. That's when Doctor Strange is like, we need to go bro chill. Like,
yeah. Like, oh, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this. This is part of me. This is a housing unit for nanoparts.
Yeah, because that was the whole, like, hey, let's start a family. And she's like, cool, get rid of that. And he's like, what, this? No, it's cool. Yeah. It's just nanobots. It's whatever. It's fine. Look, it's not even worth talking about, but it's a pretty big deal, but it's not worth talking about. But they're nanobots.
So then to your point, if enough of those are damaged, there's not enough left over to actually equip anything.
Or to... yeah. Even if he could just do enough for the helmet, like, is there enough to power it? And even then, like, how does he get his oxygen in the Iron Man suit?
Filtration system?
Because, like, they go into space at the beginning-ish, like, first third of Infinity War, when, like, and then it's when, Spider-Man gets the iron suit. Like, how does that...
My theory is it's CO2 recycling. Every time he exhales, that's stored, filtered, cleaned, replaced.
Okay, but how?
I don't know. Science.
Look, that's all I'm saying. But anyways, back to my point. I don't think she could have just stayed them through space, because, like, he doesn't have enough of his suit. Nebula, I don't think can... I think she still has to breathe. I don't know, like, half of her is robot anyways.
Yeah, I haven't figured out what that's about. So anyway, she takes the ship, takes it back, and then the Avengers, whoever's left over, decides that they are going to team up with Captain Marvel to go and take the fight to Thanos to take back the stones and retcon the entire story.
He said the thing.
Which is why I wanted to do this episode, because Endgame is exactly the perfect retcon story, because it's all about time and replacing it. And you had even said it, in the beginning in Infinity War, Thanos is trying to retcon the universe and keep it from being something else that he doesn't want it to do. And then in Endgame, it's a retcon of a retcon.
And there's a retcon in a retcon in the sense that, like, he now knows he got the stone and they're trying to stop him. So now he's trying to come back and get it to, like, stop them from stopping him.
Yeah, stop him from stopping him before.
It's just so much.
Crazy. All right, so Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, War Machine, Bruce Banner, and Rocket Raccoon track Thanos down and learn that he had just used the stones to destroy the stones, and that the decimation could not be undone. So naturally, what does Thor do?
Chops his friggin' head off.
Which I totally respect. And that's why I call this chapter Going for the Head. So it's pretty cool because, like, I don't know, first he chops his arm off so Rocket can check the gauntlet, which I loved because I thought that was because that arm was already so mangled that it was probably easy to hack through. And then Thor just doesn't like the words that he used and cuts his head off again. And so, what'd you think about that? How, too finite, too severe? I mean, uncharacteristic? What do you think?
Didn't see it coming.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I didn't see him destroying the stones coming, and I didn't see Thor lopping his head off coming.
Yeah.
Those both caught me by surprise, because, like I'm not going to say I had a super in-depth knowledge of, like, the Infinity War story, but, like, I had a basic understanding of, like, timelining, like, what's going on. So when they killed Thanos in the first 20 minutes, and it's just like, holy shit, okay, now what? Like, are we still getting a Thanos conflict? Or are we going to take this in a whole new route and be like, some other asshole? So, I don't know. It was awesome. Caught me off guard. I do like the whole, what did you do? And I went for the head. Like, he said the thing.
Earlier.
Because the last one.
You see, always take advice even from your enemies.
I do like how they just bum rushed his house, too. Like, was it Banner in the Hulkbuster suit just comes up from the floor?
And just decks him, yeah.
Yeah. That was nice.
So good. So good. Yeah, I thought that scene was really beautiful. It was really emotionally driven. Like, they had been defeated. They had lost the battle. They had lost half of everybody, in the entire universe. This is, we're not messing around anymore. We're not pulling our punches anymore. Let's go do the thing. And so it was just really cool to see, this little tiny cabin, dude's just trying to make him some chicken noodle soup, which I hear is good for the soul. And after destroying half the universe, I'm sure that was much needed. But yeah, for them to just drop in, destroy him, cut off his arm, and cut off his head, that made me think of in the beginning of Infinity War, where he kills Loki in the way that he does it, where he picks him up and he, like, squeezes his head and you almost see kind of his head pop.
His eyes start bulging and he just chokes the life from him.
So, like, that was a level of brutality that I don't think I was expecting out of a Disney movie. I was actually really surprised that they were able to go that far. So then when it happened in Endgame and they actually lopped his head off, I was like, man, like, they're really taking these big, we know that a lot of you are the adults in this room. We know that your kids might be with you, but the parents are here as well. And I think there are these really adult, serious stakes moments, which I thought really helped anchor the sincerity and the severity of, like, what was going on.
So 3 things real quick, because I don't want to obviously take forever on this because we got more shit to talk about.
For sure.
I loved the whole cabin in the field thing because it was a subtle nod to the end of the Infinity Crisis in the comics, because it ends with Thanos just living that farmer life, basically. Like, even with his suit on a post acting as a scarecrow, like, even that. Yeah. Like, all that was a solid nod, and I really liked that.
And I thought that was great recycling also. I think a lot of the DIY audience can really get behind taking a costume and using it for
sure. I mean, cosplayers around the world, they can just defend all of our crops. Like, I'm never going to wear this again. Scarecrow. Thing 2, Thor lopping off his head made a lot of sense in the sense that, like, you watched Thor choke the life from your brother. You watched him kill half of everyone. And, like, a lot of that's sitting on your shoulders. Like, you're carrying that on your shoulders because you didn't go for the head. You drilled him in the shoulder, and then which gave him a second to snap. So, like, you were carrying that guilt around with you, and then you found out that there's no way to undo it. Like, I think in that moment, I would just snap in blind rage and lop his head off. Yeah,
because then you serve no purpose to me. Yeah. If you literally can't fix it, you've already taken everything from me. And there's like that one great scene, I think, in Infinity War, where he's sitting next to Rocket, and Rocket's like, "Are you sure you're up for this?" And he's saying, all the things that he's lost, and he's like, and if I do fail, what more have I to lose? And like, I think you're seeing Thor circle the drain the entire Infinity War movie, and then the whole beginning part of Endgame, and then we'll get to what it looks like when you flush them. But yeah, it was dark, but it was sad, but it was legit.
Yeah, and then third and final point to your brutality point, like, again, because I had like a basic knowledge of like what happened in the comics, I was expecting more brutality from Thanos, but at the same time understanding like technically, yeah, this is a Disney movie. Technically, we have to dull it down like a little bit. So like, I am glad that they had like those couple moments in where it's just Thor, you hear that internal snap and he just lops the head off because what the hell else am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So
dark.
Yeah. But it fit the scene.
So Thor lops off his head, walks out of the frame. Everyone's just kind of standing there, and then bam, 5 years later. So, Bryar, why don't you take us into the future 5 years, please?
All right. So Scott Lang, a.k.a. Ant-Man, is rescued from the quantum realm by a rat that just be bopping around his van, hit some buttons, beep, boop, bop, and boom, we have Ant-Man again.
Convenient.
Then he suddenly has the idea for possibility of time travel using the quantum realm, because what was it? It was 5 years, but for him it was 5 hours.
Yeah.
So then, maybe we can do that to go back in time, undo the snap. Mm-hmm. MF and Time Heist, y'all.
Yeah, you.
And so he goes, pitches that idea to, Cap and Black Widow, and they're like, all right, I mean, like, we don't have a better idea, so sure, why not?
For sure.
They go to Stark. He's all like, dude, you see this ballin' family and house I got? Like, I'm not saying I don't want to help. I'm just saying I'm not going to give this up.
Mm-hmm. So before we get too far in this rabbit hole, like, there was a kind of cool moment with, like, Captain America trying to like give a whole bunch of people some hope in a world that had lost it, because now this is another shot of like what happened in that 5 year interim, when everybody's gone now, but between Infinity War and Endgame we wanted to know what happened, but now we have another chunk of time. 5 years has passed since half of population is gone, and now there are all these support groups, one of which is led by Captain America. How did that grab you as far as Captain America knowing that he failed but still trying to do something as simple as get a circle of guys together and just try to talk them through moving on? Like, what do you think about that?
Honestly, if I had to pick an Avenger to do this, I don't want to call it an AA meeting, but same basic concept. Yeah. It would be Captain. Like, that it made sense. I mean, he's the all around good guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe some gray morals here and there, but like, whatever. But I mean, it made sense for him to be the one to have that support group to give the pep talk to, hey guys, it's all right, shit sucks, I know, I was there, but like, I'm trying to move on, you should try to move on too, it's all right, it's all good.
Only he's not trying to move on. He literally the next scene he goes and says a lot of people move on, but not us. And I'm like, well, you lying piece of shit. But you get it, though, because especially since he's in a position of leadership, he's very much looked up to. I mean, all you can do sometimes is just tell people, hey, man, one foot in front of the other, we got to keep on moving. We can't just stand still, because what else are you going to do?
I mean, half of who he is, like half of his whole thing is like to try to, obviously lead a bomb-ass team to do bomb-ass stuff, but the other half is, just giving hope, being that symbol of hope that tomorrow will be a new day, we can try again.
So I don't know, I feel like the Avengers is a pretty solid franchise name, but Bomb-Ass Team, I think, would have sold just as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just think those kind of things, especially when Ant-Man pitches this idea to Steve, and, like, he instantly jumps on that, and they get so excited clearly, but they're interested in hearing it out, and they want to, instantly, once they hear that idea, they want to take it straight to Tony Stark. And interestingly enough, as dialed in as Ant-Man is about trying to fix everything, as, Steve Rogers and Black Widow are about, refusing to move on, because, now if there's a chance of us fixing this, we need to take it. But then for them to go to talk to Tony Stark about that and have him really just stop and just say, no, I can't risk it. There's too much. I've already given you so much. I've already almost lost so much. Like, you can't ask this of me, kind of thing. Like, how did that dichotomy hit you? Because really, I think just like with Scott Lang and Clint Barton going back to their families, I think this is another thing that was really just aimed at parents. You know, how much are you willing to risk if you lose your family?
Well, I mean, the whole thing, like with Clint, with all of them, really, it adds that human element to them. Because like we've been seeing them as superheroes that's just total badasses that can do all this cool shit, and then you add in that, and it makes them human. It makes them more relatable. So like from a certain standpoint, like I get it. I get why Tony doesn't want to go again and possibly lose his family. I mean, Christ, he's been chasing after Pepper for what, every movie, and now he has a family, has a daughter. Like, they both got really lucky in the sense of they were both still there after the snap.
So I'm going to disagree with you for a second, because I think that Pepper was never strong enough to keep him around. And I think she even says one of the great failures in my life is getting you to stop. Because if you think about it, no matter what happened, he was always going to go for it. No. He went straight for the ship. Tony, you better not be on that ship. I swear to God, if you don't come back here right now, he never, ever second-guessed his decision once he made it to go and do something. I'm going to build the Iron Man suit. I'm going to sell these weapons. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to tell everyone I'm Iron Man. Like, he operates on his own with no regard for anybody else but his own decisions and, like, what he feels is right. I think that's why a lot of the things happen. But then for the first time you have here, he's got a daughter now. His even approach to talking to Morgan is different than we'd ever seen before.
True.
And even for Morgan to, get the helmet that was a rescue helmet because he's making, an anniversary present for Pepper Potts, like, those little moments are so anchored to, like, now who Tony is 5 years later, because he's completely moved on. He's completely separated himself from his life. He's completely walked away from it. He's still doing things, something as simple as him building the rescue outfit for Pepper as an anniversary present. I think that speaks to his inability to stop tinkering. He's never going to stop making stuff because he's an inventor. He's a genius. There's some people who just can't stop doing certain things if they're built for that. But this is the first time where there's been another hero moment opportunity, and he just looked at him and said, no, I can't do it. It's too risky. So fuck you.
Hurtful. But I get what you're saying. I really didn't honestly think about it in that sense too much. But again, it just kind of goes back to the point of, like, he has his kid now. Like, he doesn't want to risk not having his kid. And, like, I mean, I get it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're given the opportunity, like, hey, you can go save a metric shit ton of people. 50-50, you're going to lose your kid, though. Like, what do you do?
Right. I don't know. And Danny and I watched Inception not that long ago, and they posed the same story. What if you have the ability to save your daughter, but the cost was never seeing your daughter ever again? You're also saving your entire race, but then also personally, you're never going to see the only person you really care about ever again. I mean, he had a son and he had a dad, and like, he didn't care about them, he cared about his daughter. but still, for most people, like for Tony Stark, like, throughout the rest of the dialogue that he has, he's constantly making sure that they know we need to protect what we have so we don't lose, what we've built. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic that, again, was put there, for the parents that were in the audience, really wrestling with those, and to give other people that don't have kids a chance to think about that, about what they weighed about that. So he declines. Scott says, he's like, so what, we just give up, we just stop? And she's like, no, we don't, we're gonna need a bigger brain.
What is I just want to make sure we do this right, or whatever his quote was.
Oh yeah, no, we need to do this right, we're just gonna need a bigger brain. So I don't know, do you want to talk about this next part, because I can't.
Are we talking about the professor?
But yeah, that's the next part.
Okay, so
they leave Tony Stark and they go to meet somebody.
So, while the professor and the trio... Oh, wait, did I skip some? I feel like I got ahead. No.
I don't know, did you?
Yeah, you're just... The way you wrote your script doesn't make sense, but, whatever, we're fine. So, anyways, understandably, Tony declines sending the trio of Nat, Scott, and Steve to see their old buddy Bruce Banner, who has merged himself into, quote, the professor, end quote, Hulk. I love your reaction to Professor Hulk, because I know that's your main gripe with this movie.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that this movie gets right, but I when we get to the retcon section, I have a great many things to say about what they did with all that. So, why don't you just keep on? You take us through this scene, because I can't.
All right, whatever, fine, God. So, while the professor and the trio start attempting time travel, very unsuccessfully, by the way, Tony Stark actually solves it because, he saw that picture of him and Peter holding up that, what was it, the scholarship thing or whatever? And Peter's holding it upside down because it's Peter.
No. I think Tony's actually I could be wrong. I think Tony's holding that picture upside down. Or maybe Peter is. I don't know.
Either way. Holding it upside down.
Either way, it's upside down.
And that gets him thinking, like, hey, maybe the whole, key to time travel is being upside down. What? So, he has that sweet computer table hologram thing that, like, let's be honest, we all want.
Oh, for sure.
And he builds time GPS. So, then he has that inner debate of, like, all right, I have the golden ticket. All right. Do I go to the chocolate factory, which in this scenario is saving everyone, setting the clock back, or do I just, like, I don't know, tape it up in a box, throw it in the lake, and go to bed? Mm-hmm. Which, Pepper then gives him that whole, what was it, would you be able to rest?
Yes.
Basically, alluding to the whole, we both know you can't just let it go. You're gonna do this. Just quit walking around the subject and just go do it. Yeah. So I can get back to my book. Yeah. Because, she's sitting on the couch reading.
My book on composting, yeah. I don't know.
Man, they're being self-sufficient, okay?
I just think that's some of the best writing in this entire movie is this scene between Tony and Pepper. Because, again, Pepper saying one of the great failures of my life is getting you to stop, but then also being honest enough. I think Pepper knows that if this happens, this is it for her and Tony. I think she knows it. Somewhere in her heart, I think she knows that this is it. If she, but she can't make that decision for him, so she's just honest about what the facts are. One of my great failures is getting you to stop. If you if you threw this in the bottom of the lake, would you be able to rest? Because she already knows the answer to that, but he's got to get there himself.
Which, to take a very brief jump to the end of the movie, the whole when he's, breathing his last breath and she even tells him it's okay, you can rest now. Like, I think that proves your point. If she knew if he moves forward with this, that's it. Something's going to happen. I don't know that she necessarily knew one of them was going to die, but she knew that was something was going to happen to end what they had. So.
And I think so much of what started driving Tony was the family. So, he had Morgan now, he had Pepper now, and now his family dynamic has changed, and now no longer he's going to just jump into everything. He's really measured about it. But then he sees that picture with him and Peter is, it's his ward, his kind of son. I think he very much always considered Peter an instant member of his family, cared about him, loved him, wanted to mentor him, wanted to push him,
wanted him to be an Avenger.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that was bound into that so I don't want to risk losing anything, but if I can bring back Peter, let's do that. So he tries it, and it works, and then we keep on moving on.
And it works, and he has that moment where he says shit, and then you turn out around, Morgan's up, and she says it, and
then we get one of the best family, lines that is everywhere now is, the I love you 3000 line, which was fantastic.
Which, did you see the time with that? I guess someone went back and did, I don't know how, like, factual this is. Okay. But someone went back and did the math of all the screen time of Tony Stark Iron Man throughout all the movies, and it equates to something like 3,000...
Oh, cool.
I don't want to say minutes, because that seems like a lot. I think it's like more like 3,000 seconds or whatever. So I don't know if that was intentional, or if it's even real, or even, like, an actual factual thing, but if it is... That's cool as hell.
If it is, it's cool. I don't think it's necessary to push anything either direction. I think it's strong enough to live on its own, but it would also be a very Marvel thing to kind of pepper in something cool like that.
Hey man, you've been here for 3,000 seconds. Love you 3,000.
Oh, sure, because we do. All right, so then I'll just kind of round this out, and then we'll go into Chapter 3. So Tony shows up to mend fences with Steve Rogers, and then shares the good news of time travel, but of course, with the stipulation that they have to get the band back together, which is the name of Chapter 3, getting the band back together. So, the two come-home stories that were posed with, it's pretty much Thor and Hawkeye. So, Bryar, why don't you take the story of Thor?
Okay, first and foremost, I love Fat Thor, or what was it, Bro Thor is what everyone was calling
Bro Thor,
him?
yeah. Dad Thor or Bro Thor.
Loved him so much. But dude, it was rough watching just because, like, you can see this is a man who's lost everything, just doesn't give a shit about anything anymore, and he's just living out his days waiting for death to take him. Mm-hmm. Like, he lost his brother, he lost pretty much well over half, the vast majority of all the Asgardians. Like, it's that whole, what else can I lose at this point? So he's just drinking nacho cheese like, you know, it's going out of style, and, you know, got hefty.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, I could relate to a certain point. Like, I think if I hit that point where everything was taken from me, and I know that it's not necessarily my fault that it happened, but I had an opportunity to stop it, and I screwed up the whole not going for the head thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I would react the same way. I'm just, who the hell cares anymore? I'm just going to sit in my cottage, get shit-faced, and eat my pain away.
Yeah.
I mean, but, you know, I eat a lot.
I think yeah. I think there's a little bit of Fat Thor in all of us.
Yeah, for sure. But, like I said, I get it. That scene... Fat Thor, Bro Thor in general made sense because it really kind of, again, makes him human. Yeah. He's suffering so much loss, so many kicks to the dick, and it's just like, you just hit that point of like, I just don't care anymore. So I'm just going to hide away from the world, play Xbox with, what's his name, Korg or whatever. Yeah. And just threaten kids on Xbox Live, which I mean is the dream.
Yeah, I can respect that. I just think, it shows you, like I was saying, like, you know, so before that, Infinity in the beginning of Endgame, like, Thor's circling the drain, and then he's losing everything, and he's losing everything quickly. So very quickly, he loses his mom, his girlfriend, his dad, his brother, half of the population that he's supposed to support, his best friend, and then they lose half of the rest of civilization.
Well, don't forget, right before losing his brother, lost his home because Asgard was destroyed.
That's right. So he had,
lost parents, lost girlfriend, lost home, lost brother.
Half of the surviving population.
Well, lost the majority of the Asgardians. Whatever was left on that ship, lost most of them that couldn't escape on. I think they were jettisoned out on escape pods or something like that. So, like, lost most of them, and then the snap, so you're losing half of what's left.
Yeah, half of it, yeah.
And then, again, you have this whole mentality of, I could have stopped the snap
had I aimed for the head.
Yeah.
And so I just think a lot of what we see there with Thor in that, you know, we don't see him except when he comes for supplies. But what that's saying is, like, he's so isolated in all of his escape, you know, so he's hiding beneath the nacho cheese, he's hiding in the bottle, he's hiding, you know, so I think Fortnite was specific for two reasons: marketing, because Fortnite probably has the capital to try to get that going, but then also because, you know, there's a lot of conversation about video game addiction and how addictive young kids are getting to something like Fortnite.
Specifically Fortnite.
So then you have, you know, you have the gluttony, eating addiction, you have the drinking, alcoholism, but then you also have this other thing at work here, you know, just something that I can escape to, so I don't have to feel, so I don't have to think about my own life, and that you know, I don't know, cocoon of nonsense is how you generate something like Thor. And it was really sad, like, to see, you know, who was the strong, powerful, mighty warrior, you know, really focused and disciplined, to completely see it. I don't know, I think it speaks to his survivability, because he never thought about taking himself out. He just retreated into himself. Yeah. And I think that's different than, you know, a lot of other people who deal with depression have different thoughts and different things that they might do if they did hit rock bottom. But with him, instead of, and I think that's also a Marvel thing, they couldn't really play with that storytelling.
They could go kind of dark, but not that dark.
Yeah, not that dark. But still, this is their own way to say, like, this is how bad it got, and this is why he looks how he looks.
I mean, especially when you look point A to point B, you know, point A being that badass, hard-ass man wielding Stormbreaker like a mofo, and then you get Bro Thor just gut hanging out, just not caring anymore. His hair is dreaded, but I don't think that was intentional. I think it's just more like
it's not washing it. It's all natural. But yeah, so Rocket,
and then using Stormbreaker to open a beer bottle.
Yeah, which is amazing. He pops it off. So like like Rocket used to call him the Pirate Angel. You know, that's what they all call him in, you know, I think it was Infinity War. But then, you know, he said, you look like melted ice cream. So to go from those two dynamics, it just, I don't know, it was sad. So that was story one, you know. So Hulk, so the Professor and Rocket go to bring back Thor. So then the other comeback story is Hawkeye. So we find ourselves in Tokyo on a rainy night, and the translation on screen from the Yakuza type person with the Uzi says it's him. He's after Akihiko, which is probably a mispronunciation. I apologize. So clearly there's a war going on, and we see one guy just slicing his way through person after person. This is, I think, as bloody of a scene as we've ever seen, because typically they're fighting against robots and stuff. Nothing that really matters.
It was like a really bloody scene without being a visually bloody scene.
Right.
You know what's happening, but they don't explicitly show blood splatter hitting the wall.
So, but you hear the screaming, and there's a lot of like really great storytelling that happens off screen. You know where he is. You see the people crashing through the windows. You see the flashes of light that are gunfire. You know, it's
you hear the shing of metal of sword going through bodying.
It's John Wick if the camera was in the hallway, not right behind John Wick, kind of thing.
Which, I mean, I'd still watch that.
Oh, for sure. So then, a man, blasts out of the window and lands. He's got a sword. It's almost like a cool superhero landing. And then another guy, in a hood lands behind him. The man with the sword says, why are you doing this? We didn't do anything to you. And then we hear the other guy in the hood say, you survived. Half the planet didn't. They got Thanos. You get me. They have an interchange. They fight. The guy in the hood wins. And then the man who had, I think, his throat cut is on his knees just pleading for help and just says, I'll give you whatever you want, no matter what it is. And then you hear, what I want you can't give me. And then, takes up a sword over his head, stabs the guy in the chest, I think.
Yeah, straight, because the dude was leaning on his knees, leaning backwards. Yeah, straight through the chest, down in, just wrecking everything.
Pulls out, wipes the blood off on his sleeve, which I think is a very baller move.
Especially the movement of it, which is pretty BA.
And then I was like, "What? It's raining. Just hold it out.
Just give it a good shake."
Yeah, it's gonna.
Right there.
Why? You're closed, man. Just hold it anyway. So then, for no reason,
he's got a killer dry cleaner.
Takes his hoodie off, and then you see behind him Miss Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, just staring, watching, not doing a whole lot, saying you shouldn't be here.
Well, he
says you shouldn't be here, and she says you shouldn't either.
Yeah.
So what'd you think about all that?
So I know one of the points you'd made was why did she let him
do it? Yeah.
Honestly, you look at their characters and what they were, what they used to be. I mean, I think death and killing it's not who they are now, but at one point in time it was. So I don't really think she stopped him necessarily because I used to do that too. So you just lost your entire goddamn family. You know what, man? I'm gonna let you have this one. I'm gonna let you finish. But yeah, that whole scene was dark. And her being there too, it was, I don't know, I think it was necessary to kind of bring him back into it, because if someone had to go get him, it had to be her, because they have that bond.
Well, all right, so earlier, we talked about that Steve Scott Natasha scene where, he shows up, they try to figure out when that video is played from, it's now, then he, Scott's going nuts about time travel or whatever.
Peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, but, but right before that, there's it's almost like it's a briefing, you have Rocket, you have,
Captain
Marvel, you have, I can never remember her name.
War Machine's there. And, no, what's her face from Black Panther?
Yeah, I can't think of her name.
Never remember her name either.
But you have this cool briefing of, everything that's going on in the world, and War Machine stays behind and mentions this horrible scene, I think, somewhere in, Mexico or South America.
However many cartel all killed before they even got a chance to draw their weapons.
Right. He's like, it's really bad. And then, Black Widow is crying when she says, can you tell me, where, find out where he is and let me know. And I think in that moment, she decides, I think I might have to kill him. I think if you were to, and I wonder if we're going to get this in the Black Widow movie, I wonder if there's a part of that movie that ends with her having her hand on her firearm, aiming at Clint, but then not being able to pull the trigger, and then that's the next moment. That's what I wonder. That's my theory for Black Widow, if that ties in somehow. So I wonder if that's why she went there to kill him, but then she couldn't.
I don't think she went there with the intent to kill him, but I think she had in the back of her head that that's on the table.
Okay.
I think her goal was to bring him in, but like I said, also knowing 50-50, I'm gonna have to drop a dude. I think part of, after listening to your point, I think part of maybe why she didn't stop him was the whole, if I stop him, I'm gonna have to face that rage right now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let him kill this guy, thus getting that out. Because I also think part of the whole, him taking the hood and mask off is the sigh of relief at the end.
Yeah.
Oh god, okay, I killed everyone. I can go home, collect my bounty. Whew, rough day. So I think she was kind of just waiting for that moment of where he just takes the breath, kind of regathers himself, and can actually be talked to. So I think in that moment when he's just slicing and dicing, I'm not going to try to talk to him.
I think it was pretty interesting, also pretty dark.
It's very dark.
One last thing on this. What do you think his sword was made out of? Something cool, vibranium? Do you think Tony Stark made his sword an outfit? Or do you think he did it on his own?
That's a good question. Counter question: do you think he had it all along and just never used it? Like, do you think that was maybe just part of his kit, and he's like, nah, I'm gonna just roll with.
Yeah, he just keeps he keeps grabbing the bow, and he just looks at the sword and he's like, next time maybe.
Because in Infinity War, when at the airport scene, he's using his bow as like a staff to brawl it out with, I think, Black Panther, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But like, he's using it as a physical melee weapon at that point in time. So I'm wondering if like he always had the sword, but he's like, nah, the bow's I can just this is fine.
Yeah.
Or if he did, I don't know. I don't think Stark made it for him.
Okay.
Just because, like, with everything else going on, and you have this dude that, you know, like, has a shady past, because, like, Hawkeye used to be a criminal.
Mm-hmm. Because of the Accords, which Tony was pushing for. So even, I guess that's fair. That's a good point. They're not on the same team right now at all.
No, so, I mean, you have this dude, like, yeah, you've bro-chilled before, but, like, you know, checkered past. He's like, hey, I need you to make me a dope sword. Like, I'm gonna say no. Yeah. That's a no from me, dog.
Where do you get the balls to come and ask me?
But I mean, at the same time, like, if it was made out of cool metal, which I hope it was, like, where did he go? How did he get it? Because it's not like you can just walk into your local sword store and say, your finest vibranium sword, my good man.
If you please.
And a tip of the hat to you, sir.
Alright, so they get everybody back, and now they go into Chapter 4, which I call beta testing. So, Bryar, you want to take beta testing?
So, the team gets back together, because they're getting the band back together, going on one last tour, man. Woo-hoo. Their farewell tour.
Freebird.
And blam, a beta version of time travel is set up, and interesting enough, Ant-Man's like, hey, guys, listen, we only have enough for, like, what was it? Three times.
It's like 2 times.
And then he hits the button by accident. He's like, all right, one time. Plus, however much we'll need to actually time travel. So he's like, I don't know, man. And what was it, Hawkeye's like, I mean,
I'll go. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's not like I have anything to come back to. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So Hawkeye jumps in there, zips on through time, and he ends up back on his ranch prior to Snap. And, like, real quick, before we even go further, before we get to your whole thing, like, quick question of, do you think they intentionally sent him? Because at that point in time, they can control where they're going.
Yes.
But did they control it from their little smartwatch, or is it pre-typed shit?
So I think it becomes pre-typable, because if you remember, like, we do like a time heist and then a follow-up time heist from the original time heist. Right. They punch Iron that Man. In. Yeah, Iron Man and Cap punch it in on their things. Okay,
because my question was, like, do you think they intentionally sent him there to give him that little glint of hope of, like, hey, man, I'm going to let you see your family real quick, or do you think he chose that spot specifically to see his family again?
So I mean, this is still called beta testing. I think this is very much Hulk deciding where they're going and sending him there.
Okay.
And so I think the only time you actually see somebody make a decision for themselves is later on with Iron Man and Cap. And maybe with Nebula, I gotta think about that one. Because there's a point where, like, Nebula, like, takes her weird little... Like, old Nebula takes her fingers and, like, controls how to bring old Thanos back to present time.
Yeah, but that's her hacking a computer, basically, because she's part robot.
Yeah, but that's the only other time I think I see somebody make a decision to use that. Everybody else is just going.
But she wasn't using a watch to do that. She was actually using the control computer thing. So I guess... Excuse me. By that logic... It would be predetermined then if you can control it from there. I don't know. I guess maybe it is both. Like, all right, hey, I'm a beep boop bop bop bop. You're gonna go to this place, and when you get there, like, you have to beep bop yourself back.
Yeah, I don't know. Weird.
I like to think they sent him there intentionally so he could just have that little moment of, like, man, here's your kids. You've been through some shit. I'm gonna let you see your kid, which he doesn't even get to.
And, like, where does it make sense for you to be? If we have you pop up at Starbucks, everyone's gonna be like, "What the?" But
in this weird ass suit.
But if you pop up at your ranch in a barn, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, like, it's cool. I'm Hawkeye. I'm with the Avengers. Don't question it. Go back to your frappe there. I'm out. I'll see you guys later.
So, he gets to his ranch, he runs around, he, picks up a baseball glove, he screams for his kids, and then all of a sudden he goes back to present time. But then you see Lila, the daughter, run downstairs and say, "Yeah, Dad," which I thought was pretty cool. But then, like any kid, the kid's going to say yeah, and then you have, I think, 5 seconds to respond before that kid says, all right, whatever, and then goes back upstairs. So I like that. That was a nice little nod to what kids are like.
You know that kid's pissed because their glove's missing now.
You made me come all the way downstairs and you told my glove? No.
Great. Guess I'm not playing catch later. Thanks, Dad. Buying me a new glove, I'll tell you that much.
So then it's clear.
Me to wash the dishes.
Time travel works. They can control it. They can go wherever they want to. And now they get into the planning. And so I thought the planning was really cool because I think this is the first time where we see, since Civil War, everybody together, working together, being, on the same page. Like, I thought that was kind of a really cool moment.
Yeah, I did like the one moment where it's Captain, it's Black Widow, and it's Hulk just chilling out, laying on the floor, on the table, whatever, like eating food. Like it's a solid three bros in college just hanging out, listening to music.
Two of them are arguing about where Doctor Strange lives, and then Black Widow is trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So I feel like that's like if you, me, and Shelby were working on something, that's exactly how it would go. Shelby would be the only one actually working, and there'd be you and me just messing around, not taking it seriously. I don't know. There's so many moments like that I think is what this movie really nails, and I love that part about it.
Again, it's that human aspect to superheroes. It's making them more relatable. It's like, no, I could lay on the floor with three of my friends just hanging out, having an argument while I eat Chinese food.
Yeah, they have all these powers, but still, they're still people just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, so Chapter 5, The Time Heist. So why don't you start, take us to New York in 2012.
So they're all work together, the band's back together, and they skilly bop on back to Civil War era New York and the the Chitauri invasion.
Well, I think this is not Civil War. This is like first Avengers.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep defaulting to Civil War.
I can't wait for the hate mail. Keep going.
Whatever.
Actually,
if you're ready to move, you should go see. So anyways, skilly bop on back to New York during the Chitauri invasion when Loki's being like an extra dickish dude.
Yeah.
So you have the original 6 Avengers just wrecking shit. You have, Hulk just jumping around, yelling, smashing, doing the Hulk smash because that's what Hulk does.
Sure does.
So then you have Cap, Iron Man, and Ant-Man and Professor Hulk show up, and it's 2 teams. So it's Hulk's gonna go find Doctor Strange. You get the Time Stone.
Yep.
You got Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Captain going to Avengers Tower to steal the Space Stone.
They were going for both. They were going for the cube and the scepter. They had both of them. So the cube was up there because that was on the top of the building.
Yeah,
and Avengers being, bringing the Chitauri force down. And then Loki also had the scepter, which is what he was using to, change everybody and stuff like that.
So Professor Hulk goes and talks to, I can't remember, the Ancient Ones.
The Ancient One.
Explains what's going on. Explains, hey man, Doctor Strange in my time just gave it to Thanos, and she's like, well shit, he's supposed to be like the bee's knees when he gets to Sorcerer Supreme, so he must have had a good reason. Here, take this, but promise me you're gonna bring it back, because split timelines is a thing, and we ain't trying to mess with that. So he's like, alright, cool. Then you get Ant-Man and Captain and Iron Man trying to get the Mind Stone and the Space Stone. They get the Scepter, which is the Mind Stone, and then past Hulk, 2012 Hulk, is pissed because he has to go down the stairs.
Which I thought was amazing.
It was fantastic.
Take the stairs, hate the stairs.
Like halfway down, too many stairs. I was surprised he didn't just jump down.
Yeah, why didn't he just jump? You would have been fine. Whatever.
But, so, they already have the scepter. No. Captain America has to go get the scepter from the Splinter Cell Hydra agents.
Yes.
Which does that by just convincing them that he is a member of Hydra now.
The power of a cheat code.
And they're just like, oh shit, take it.
Damn, here, bro.
Do you need anything else? Do you need something to drink? I mean, you good?
Damn.
So he gets that. Ant-Man gives past Tony a mild heart attack by jumping into his thing, which I loved that moment with Thor where he just puts the hammer on the chest, pounds it one. I had no idea that was going to work. Because, you know what? I could see us doing that.
I respect it. You gotta try. I don't know, bud. Let's see.
I could see me on the floor with a heart attack and you just, ripping a lamp cord out of a wall and shocking me with it because, I don't know, I saw it in a movie once. So they use that moment. They get the cube because, future present Iron Man's dressed up as a SWAT guard, starts walking, and in comes past Thor, pissed because he had to take the stairs, kicks open the door, chest goes flying, perfectly opens up at Loki's feet, which, come on.
Convenient.
And he's like, no one's looking, grab it, bounce out.
Bye!
So now we're like, shit, how are we gonna get that back?
So now we done broke the timeline. Timeline is officially broken.
Which so they don't address that, at all.
Well, I don't know, man. They're going to in an entire TV show.
I'm sure, like, that's how, even though Loki's dead, that's how we're going to get Loki in present time, is, like, you know, JK, he's some alternate. They're going to do, you know, the time hop dance and somehow.
But I guess if you think about it, so the stone that they used to undo everything was the stone that they got from where we're about to go, the Inception Heist part of it. Yeah. So really, as long as the stone was returned back there, everything else is fine.
Well, yes and no. Everything's fine up to that New York scene then.
Right.
And then that from there split, because they never, unless, well, they could honestly easily just say, like, well, when Cap went back in time to return everything, he just bitch slapped Loki, got that stone, put it back in the chest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they could do it that way, but I kind of feel like that's an easy out, Marvel. But, I mean, you know, or no, I'm sorry, Disney.
Well, I think their whole, like, what if series is based upon that specifically. What if, blah. So, I'm sure we'll see some of that stuff unpacked in the Loki show, which I'm excited about.
Good.
So, why don't you keep going, take us to the Inception Heist. So, after Loki escapes...
So Loki escapes with the cube because, you know, coincidence, it just opened at his feet. Why the hell not? New plan is formed where Captain Iron Man and just like, we still need that, otherwise we're SOL. And Iron Man's like, hey man, I know where we can get it. I need you to not ask me how I know. I just need you to accept the fact I know. Do you trust me? Yeah, I trust you. And then you have Ant-Man like, guys, like, if you're wrong, because the whole thing is, I know where we can get the stone and more pin particles so we can still get back. And Ant-Man's like, if you're wrong, you're stuck there. Like, there's no going back. You guys don't do this. And they ignore him because he's Ant-Man.
Like,
like, the hell's this nerd gonna do? Get small? Cool.
Thanks for bringing your van, but that's all you contributed.
So they're like, hey man, like, you're talking, I'm not listening. Take the scepter back. We're gonna go do our thing because we're two of the main characters. This whole thing's about us, not you. So they skilly bop on back to whatever year it was. I don't know. Do you have it written down?
I don't have. It's like the 70s. It's whenever that is.
Yeah.
I don't remember the year.
They break into that military base that Tony's dad is chilling at. Gets the stone, and then there's two really touching reunions where Tony gets to have a very awesome, like, heart-to-heart conversation with his dad and the guys that it's, you know, not him, about their children. And then you have Captain scene, I've already forgotten her name.
Peggy?
Yeah.
Why do you hate her so much?
I don't. I just, like, she's had two, like, she's name dropped all the times, but, like, to me, she hasn't had enough screen time for, like, her name to really, like, I know who she is. Okay. I know her relevance, but she hasn't had enough screen time for me to really, like, lock that in there of who she is.
Margaret, a.k.a. Peggy Carter, Agent Carter. That's it.
Whatever, nerd. Okay. Anyways, he doesn't really get the chance to talk to her, but he sees her again, which I think that moment is really what fueled the whole, he's going to go back in time to return everything and stay back.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that's where it was tangible. Because he looks in, I think he sees the picture of himself, he's like, damn, I look good. And then he sees her.
I look scrawny. Oh, no, that was after he got the serum.
Yeah.
Damn, I look good. He's America's ass.
Which, again, great line.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, there's some interplay, and I glazed over that because I knew that we were going to be running long by the time we got here. But like the interplay between
like an hour 15.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the interplay between Tony and his dad were great. I think it was interesting, and I think that really alludes to what he said in the beginning of the movie, where Tony's sitting there, he's recording that message for Pepper, and he says, you know, when I drift off, I'm going to think of you, because it's always you. And I think this moment with Tony and the dad is specific to that moment where, you know, what's your name? Hello? And he says Potts. You know, so of all... so Tony's a genius. And, you know, of all the names that he thinks of Potts as the name to be his
his last name. His first name was his dad's name.
Yeah, Howard.
Yeah, so it's Howard Potts.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it was a cool moment, too, because it really shows Iron Man, like... It's in that moment, like, he has a kid now. Now I understand why my dad was such a dick.
Yeah.
And it was him forgiving his dad. Or not, I don't want to say forgiving his dad, but, like, telling his dad, like, I get it. I understand why you are the way you are. It's cool. We're cool. I still love you. But, like, he got to say it without saying it. In the sense of, like, it's not him, it's Howard Potts saying it, but, like, he still got to have that conversation, got that closure with his dad.
Well, and even, like, he's got the flowers, you know, and he holds it up, he says, too many late nights at the office. Yeah. And I think Tony 100% identified, oh, shit, that's me. Of, you know, how many times... I am my dad. I'm constantly leaving Pepper to do all of this other stuff. I'm rarely ever home because I'm always working on projects. So, yeah, I thought it was cool. I think it was a really neat moment between all those.
Again, makes him human.
Makes him human. So Cap gets what he needs. needs. Tony gets what he needs. So Tony's got the Tesseract now. Cap's got Pym particles, and they're headed back home. So now we're going to Asgard, 2013. We see the total collapse of Thor on Asgard with Rocket by his side, and I think it shows the full range of Chris Hemsworth. I think he does an outstanding job of really showing, like, he's still, even having the chance to fix everything, he's still so not confident in his abilities.
Filled with self-doubt.
It keeps falling apart. Even when Rocket slaps him and gives him that motivational bro speech, he just keeps falling apart here. And then hats off to Rene Russo for coming back and crushing her scene. I wrote Renee Zellweger, and I realized how insane that is, because it's Rene Russo who did that scene. Apparently I was really tired when I was writing this part. And so Thor and Rocket get the ether from Jane Foster. She's sick, if you remember. And I need to watch Dark World again. I
haven't even seen Dark World.
I saw it once, and it's just such a forgettable movie that I can't really remember it that well. And there's like all this weird stuff that happens in it. I know it's important. I know I need to see it. It's just hard because Ragnarok was so good. And I know that Dark World will not be as good. So
it pisses me off so much hearing you say how good Ragnarok is, because for like a month I told you, dude, you need to watch Ragnarok. It's so good. And your spiteful ass kept saying no, because if you're saying it's good, it can't be good. And then you watch it, and you had the balls to tell me how great it was, like I didn't already know.
It was really good.
God, you're such a dick.
It was really good. So not only does Rene Russo do a great job of kind of giving Thor kind of a pep talk about, you know, be who you are, not who you think you're supposed to be, which is something I think that we can all embrace. But he uses that moment to, you know, kind of get himself back together, call out for Mjolnir. He gets it, remembers, you know, realizes again that he is still worthy.
That happy moment of, I'm still worthy.
Oh, no way. And then he steals it from that timeline. Like,
I really liked him holding his hand out, waiting for it, and Rocket's just like, what? And you know, Thor's mom's like, it sometimes takes a couple minutes.
And I thought I think they had done that a couple of times, and I just liked that moment. That was a really good moment.
Not to keep pulling this up because I know we're running.
No, you're good.
Time, but like, I didn't see Dark World. Like, something came up and like I couldn't go see it in theaters, and then I heard all the negative backlash about it, and instantly was like, clearly I don't need to see it. It's like if I get the opportunity to watch it, I'm gonna watch it, but clearly I don't need to pay to watch it.
Right, but then with Ragnarok, like everybody needs to watch Ragnarok because it's so well done.
I mean, they used the same part of Immigrant Song over and over throughout that movie, but it works perfectly every time.
All right, so let's go to space. Do you want to take Morag in 2014, or you want to take Vormir in 2014?
I'll take Vormir.
Okay, so Morag 2014, Rhodey and Nebula. I think Rhodey has the easiest go of it.
Sure.
And honestly, I think he earned it because he's also kind of paralyzed. So I feel like that was like, you know what, man, we're going to just leave you alone.
We took your legs away. We're going to let you have this moment.
Yeah, you're using gear to keep walking around, but really
it looks like you're just wearing really big snow pants 24/7.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, Rhodey has an easy time. They're really mean to Peter Quill, but he's just some moron.
Just punch him.
Yeah, so he's sliding. He's dancing his heart out. He's having a great time. We've all been there. You know, it's 2 a.m. You're drunk. You're in the kitchen. You're doing spin moves. So imagine you're
doing like the family isn't trying to sleep.
And then out of nowhere, just somebody just cold cocks you and just knocks you out. It's just so savage.
Satisfying sound of metal hitting face too when War Machine punches him. Oh, so good.
But then Nebula also lets us know during that time that we are not the only ones searching for the stone, because Thanos at the time had just realized where the Power Stone was, and now Nebula and Gamora are dispatched to go try to get it from... what was that dude's name? Like the Accuser? Ronan? Ronan the Accuser. Yeah, so I think that's where all that happened. Like, Ronan's identified the Power Stone. Yeah, so that's where all that happened. This is where everything crosses over. Yes. Nebula has a neural link connection from her current timeline to the previous Nebula, and now that's where we're starting to have crossover issues. Thanos now gets an understanding of what's happening. We figure out what's going on, and now there's a huge old problem where Thanos isn't as dead as we thought he was in the beginning.
And now you get that retcon and a retcon of like, oh, they're trying to stop me. I'm gonna try to stop them stopping me.
No.
Time heist.
All right, Vormir, 2014.
All right, so Vormir, it is, what is it? It's Clint and Natalia.
Natasha?
Did I say Natalia?
You did.
Yeah, whatever. Russian-ass name.
Talia? Are you thinking of Batman?
Probably. I was looking at Batman comics earlier, so that'd make a lot of sense. Listen, I don't need your shit. So anyways, those two skiddly bop onto Vormir in the ship that someone had pre-programmed for him. I did like the scene when they're flying there and like it's just rattling because they're in hyperspace or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just shitting their pants.
But then they're also got the biggest smiles on their face. Like, I think it's cool because, you know, as siblings, which is what I think they consider themselves as very much, they've done all this crazy, terrible, horrible, awful, no good, really bad shit together, but now they're on this spaceship, they're going through hyperspace, and they're just giggling.
Well, what was the comment, too, Clint made? It was, if this wasn't something, I can't remember what it is, this would be really cool, or something like that. And it's like, I get that. So yeah, they meet the ghostly Grim Reaper-esque Red Skull, which I read some stuff and I can't remember what I read because obviously I wasn't reading that in depth, but why he was there.
So the theory behind that is that he died holding an Infinity Stone, and what we think is that the universe chose him to be a guardian or a guide of the stone. And I think he says that in...
That's the Soul Stone they're going to get,
correct, in Infinity War. So I think he was chosen to be that person because I think Thanos was the first person to seek it.
So, and that makes sense too, because the Soul Stone carries a lot more weight than the other stones. Because it connects you. The Mind Stone connects you with all the minds of everyone, but the Soul Stone connects you with fucking the souls of everyone.
Yeah.
And the price to pay to get it, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit when I go into what I'd retcon, because Adam Warlock and his whole experience with the Soul Stone, and that through the Soul Stone you can kind of connect all the other stones too. So it makes, because they all seek each other out too, but it makes a lot of sense for that price needing to be paid to get it. And then you get Red Skull saying, "Hey, I don't care which, but one of you gotta go.
One of y'all gotta go. You can have it. I'm not saying you can't have it, but
rock, paper, scissors, 2 out of 3.
There's one rock leaving and one of y'all staying. I don't care how you work it.
I have this sweet collector's coin. If you want to flip that, it's pretty neat.
It's a Power Rangers coin I got on my 7th birthday.
Yes, I've held on to it for this long. Don't you judge me.
Of course, it's the Red Ranger. Why wouldn't it be? Look at my face.
Mighty Morphin, man. Look at me. So yeah, basically tells them what happens. Tells them how Does he ever talk about Thanos making that? Because I know it's back in time, but doesn't he still have a concept of it, or? I remember he talked. Didn't he talk about something someone already paid the price or something? I don't think. Maybe I don't remember. Maybe I'm just thinking of when Thanos actually showed up and I'm getting them crossed over.
Okay.
But anyways, tells them what happens, and then they have that moment of alright, so who's gonna jump? Mm-hmm. And they're we both know who's going to, and they're we sure do. Wait, we don't, because I'm talking about me. Yeah. You're talking about you, and then they have that fun sibling brawl of just who's
gonna kill yourself?
If I can just clothesline someone with a pillow, because we've all done that to a sibling at some point in time. Yeah. Clint fires a rocket arrow at her feet. He dies off. She dies off. She grappling hooks his ass to the wall, and then she's all Svanda.
Yeah. And so I think, we had said earlier in the Bro Thor segment that there were some things that Disney wasn't willing to share, Marvel wasn't willing to go into for this audience. But I think the difference is suicide versus sacrifice. And so, Thor choosing drinking and eating and escapism was a lot different than what this was, which was sacrifice to save the rest of humanity. And that was what both of them were weighing against. Black Widow and Hawkeye both were trying to figure out, Hawkeye is coming from a place of shame. I've done terrible things, and because of that, I don't deserve to see my family again. I don't deserve to do anything else. I'm the easy out. Whereas Natasha, her whole thing was, you guys are my family. If I can do this to save all you and bring everybody back, this is what I've always wanted. This is what I've trained for my entire life, kind of thing. And so I thought that was an interesting dichotomy of the two.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah, let me do that. But I think there was a lot of forgiveness that happened from her to Clint about all the things that he had done, because she had already reconciled her past in a way that she knew that he would be able to someday. So I think that she was almost kind of the older sibling making the harder call, and I think that's why he took it so hard, because he thought that's what his position was, and it wasn't. So they get back, and pretty much the first thing you notice is Clint's face, and very slowly they realize that Natasha is not coming back.
Well, it's him too, on his knees, just
devastated,
mourning.
Yeah,
and that's when oh shit.
Yeah. And so, they're on the dock, kind of on the lake. Hulk chucks the bench, and, they all decide, we're gonna make this thing worth it here. And they go and build a nanite gauntlets, and, get ready to do the snap. And then Thor, who really wants to try to, make up for all of the terrible things that he's done, wants to wear it, and everybody freaks out. What do you think? Do you think Thor should have wore it, or do you think Hulk should have wore it?
No, I think having Hulk wear it was the better move, because like Rocket's comment, Thor said, "I'm the god of thunder. What do you think flows through these veins?" And Rocket, nacho cheese.
No, I don't think. I think that was War Machine.
No, yeah, you're right. It was him.
War Machine was really mean to Thor the entire.
So mean.
So much shade.
I do think it made more sense to have, Hulk do it because, like he said, the radiation type matched up with him. So one of the things like Disney doesn't really touch on with the Gauntlet is like the mental toll it takes on you. It's not just a physical, like you're wielding all this power. It's a mental toll as well because you're now connected with everything. It's the realization that you can do literally whatever the hell you want and nothing can stop you.
Yeah.
So it's that huge psychological toll. And Thor, he's coming around now. He had that moment of like, I'm still worthy. I can still be Thor.
Yeah.
I can still be a badass even if I do have this dad bod. But like, I still don't think he was in the right headspace. Because I mean, Thor's whole thing is, punch your way through it.
Right.
You needed someone who could have the strength to wield it and also have the mental capacity to wield it. So like it made sense of everyone there for it to be Hulk.
Yeah. I agree, and I think so. What I don't like is the line where it's the radiation is mostly pure gamma. It's like I was made for this. Like I hated
taking that being out.
As good as most of the dialogue was the entire movie. Like I just think that was just really where they were like, we need Hulk to wear it for this reason. Here's what he's gonna say to make that make sense.
And so like back to my point, I'm gonna jump the gun here and do one little retcon like right there. I would change that dialogue. I don't give a shit if it's gamma. Like I get why you're doing this, but like you could have just simply even brought in the whole it takes such a mental toll. I don't know who there could have had that spiel because like you had to have some knowledge of it. Yeah. But you could have done that in some way, shape, or form of like you need to have some sort of mental capacity. Not saying Thor, you're an idiot, but like, bro, I watch you just suck down an entire can of spray cheese. Yeah. So, I mean, they could have done that, gotten rid of the shitty, it's gamma, like, it's like I was made for it or whatever. Yeah. And had given the Infinity Gauntlet more, I don't know, meaning?
Gravitas?
Yeah, let's do that fancy-ass word.
Alright, so Hulk takes it on, has a hell of a time snapping this thing, gets it done, barn door protocol ends, doors all come up, and then we hear buzzing on the phone because Laura is calling Clint. So his wife, for the first time in 5 years, gets to call him. So finally, what he hoped for. And you could see it in his face where he doesn't even know if he could really talk to her because this is what he's wanted for 5 years straight. All the deaths that have been a reaction to his pain.
This is the fear of, is this real?
Is this
real?
real?
Not
right,
real? Am I going to pick it up, get my hopes up, and then it not be her?
Yeah, and then, we see Scott Lane with a nice smile on his face.
Looking at some birds.
And then we see, it's awful dark. And then Avengers compound is friggin' decimated by rocket fire. And so we go into really the battle to end all battles. I don't know, I just wrote down like a bunch of different things because everybody's seen this scene a ton of times. Yeah. So let's just go ahead and just kind of call out some moments. So like we have Gamora and Nebula working together. I thought that was a really cool moment.
Oh, for sure.
Because, this is still past Gamora, and she's always wanted a relationship with her sister. And now even though there are two Nebulas, Gamora has a chance to save Nebula, and I thought that was just a really cool moment. We have everybody coming back to fight. We have the really cool isolated moment with Peter Parker swinging back into frame for the first time because that was such a hard part of Infinity War.
Finally gets that hug that he was denied in, what was it, Homecoming?
Yeah, in the car. He's like, well, I'm not hugging him, just open the door.
Yeah, we're not there yet. So now he finally gets that. It's like, this is nice.
I don't know. I think one of the cool moments from this, the Captain picking up, Mjolnir. How cool was that moment? So we saw opening night, and that was the cool thing about this franchise is like if you got to see it on opening night, you were with everybody else that's probably listening to this podcast. If anybody else is listening to this podcast still, but it was built for that audience, that day one group. Those were the ones that didn't want anybody to spoil it. So when you saw, the hammer start to rise, everybody's like, oh, what the fuck?
I thought it was Thor.
Yeah, I thought he had just summoned it or something. Yeah. But then, it cuts to the next scene, and then you see, Steve Rogers whipping that bitch around. Everybody's like,
like, literally, was it 3 guys in front of us stood up, arms in the air.
So excited. So excited. And that's it. So that the negative comment saying there's no emotional appeal whatsoever. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about for so many reasons that you don't know.
Part of me thinks that that guy hasn't watched all the movies. He literally just jumped in for Endgame because they're comic movies. I don't need to.
And he's the movie beat reporter of that website. So now he's got to watch everything and write about everything, regardless of what he wants to write about it. And of course you're gonna miss stuff like that. But that was such a fan service moment because everybody's wanted that for a long time.
I love Thor's. I knew it because there's I can't remember if it was confirmed or not back in again what was it Age of Ultron when they were all trying to lift it and when Steve Rogers went it wiggled a little bit.
Yeah.
There's two main theories of like he legit couldn't lift it but could wiggle it, and then there's one that he knew he could, and thought everyone else could.
Yeah.
And they were just trying to like spare Thor his pride, and it's like no, I can't either.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if it was confirmed or not. That I want to say the Russos confirmed that, but like I could also just been reading a bullshit article that wasn't actually credible in any way, shape, or form.
And so I don't know. I always thought the only reason that Cap could lift it now was because he had reconciled with Tony, because of the whole did you know that the Winter Soldier killed my parents? And he did, and he lied to Tony. And I think honesty is such a big part of Steve Rogers' character that's what made him not worthy, because I think regardless of I think he knew he lied, but I think he was having a really tough time with it and how much pain that all caused, because that was his best friend, brother in arms, comrade kind of thing. There's
also a lot of theory too, like a lot of fan theories that the reason he couldn't lift it is because Captain America, the character Captain America, needs war. Like that character was made because of war.
Yeah.
So that he constantly needs that to be relevant, to be in there, to do his thing, to just be Billy Badass, lobbing that shield.
Yeah.
So like that part of him kept him from holding it. And like if you wanted to go that route, I don't really buy into that one a whole lot. But if you want to go that route, now he's just trying to end all the war, to stop fighting, to put everything back. Like there's that coming to Jesus moment of like, I've been kind of a piece of shit. Let's put it all back. So I don't know. I like to think that he could always lift the hammer, and he knew, and he just chose not to in that moment.
I think
that's just cooler.
To save face, I think that would be cool. I think that's a better bro moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which then adds to the whole Thor, like, I fucking knew it. I knew you could lift it.
I always thought you were joking around.
And then gets kicked in the face.
Yeah. All right, so there's a ton of stuff that happens very quickly, because this is like the biggest action scene ever. So Captain Marvel coming back, destroying the ship. Thanos getting his ass kicked a little bit and saying, just rain down fire on me, because Scarlet Witch is tearing him to pieces.
Literally crushing
him, yeah. So there's all these cool, outstanding moments, but there's something that I noticed the other day that didn't make any sense. So they're all trying to find the van, because they're all trying to get the stones.
It was on Thanos' side of the battlefield the whole goddamn time.
So, but my issue with it is the only way that you can navigate time is with the GPS, right?
Yeah.
So why?
Well, no, that. Well, finish your sentence and then I'll.
Yeah. So to me, so why is Peter running for the van? Why is Black Panther running for the van? Why is Captain Marvel flying headfirst into the quantum realm? She's got none. Captain Marvel just got there. I don't think she even has any idea that the time heist was happening.
So, her point, I don't know. Okay. I can't answer that one. But like for everyone else, their goal is to get someone into, because that platform they stood on is what really opened up the gate. The watch is just the GPS.
Right.
So the van is like a mini platform, has that in the back so they can still jump in to the quantum realm. Quantum realm. So like I think everyone knows there's probably just some like off-scene conversation of we gotta get this there back in time or some shit, but like everyone knows we gotta get the stones to that and just chuck it in there to keep Thanos from getting it, because everyone knows if he gets it, shit hits the fan.
Right.
And I think that's why everyone's in that dead sprint of like, shit, there's the van. Scott and Wasp, like I can't remember her real name or her character name, but anyways, they're the Wasp.
I think it is the Wasp.
Well, no, like
Hope.
Scotland.
Hope. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, dick.
Sorry, I was confused on what you're talking about. Sorry.
So like they're already at the van, they're already getting it running. So like they're doing their part. Which I mean, how the hell did they get clear? I get they can be small, but how do they get clear across a battlefield in like 3 seconds?
I don't know.
But anyway, so they're getting fired up. Everyone else just needs to get the gauntlet there, and I think Captain Marvel just jumped in and was like, oh shit, we gotta get it over there. I'm on it. Put me in, coach. And then just beeline, not knowing that
how or
when you
why.
go in there.
Apparently, they want to get over there really bad. I think I can.
And like, I want to be a team player. So like, I'm here.
All right. So okay. So then, if that's the case, then that's fine. That was my only issue with it. Is like once you get there, what happens? Because you can't control anything. You're just going into the realm. But maybe that was it. Maybe we just want you to get it off the field. Kind of.
Maybe they have more pin particles too. So like, okay, even if we send her, because they're gonna be booping the time and all that shit to send her. Like, all right, she she's there. We can go get her later.
Right.
As long as she doesn't,
we
wreck
need the
shit.
Gauntlet to not be here right now. It's kind of an issue.
I think that was the whole thing. Like, it needs to go, and it needs to go now. Otherwise...
Okay. Now that brings us to the final battle between Tony Stark's Iron Man and Thanos. And it's the battle for the Gauntlet. Stones are in the Gauntlet. Thanos has the Gauntlet. Tony's kind of got one shot. He looks at Doctor Strange, who's making a vortex of water because the dam just broke, which I thought was kind of cool. Doctor Strange did a lot in a very reserved role, but he was a busy guy. But then, he's pointing his finger at Tony, holds one finger
that this
up.
was the one chance, because Tony asked him earlier, tell me this is the one chance.
If I tell you, it won't.
Yeah. But don't forget that prior to that, Captain Marvel tries to grab the Gauntlet. Thanos straight up headbutts her, and she just doesn't even face her.
Yeah, she smirks at him. And I think he even punches her in the face, and he's like...
Well, that's when he took the Power Stone out in his hand, and then just drilled her.
Which I thought was very resourceful.
Oh, for sure. A little switch pitch in there, no big deal.
So, Thanos gets the Gauntlet, puts it on his hand, snaps... And
first Tony jumps onto it,
right? Grabs it, gets dead. Well, yeah. So it's so many things happen at once. So it's Captain America trying to stop him. Thor mounts Captain America, just decks him, knocks him out, lays him out. He's done. And that's the first time I think I've ever seen Steve Rogers knocked unconscious, flat out knocked unconscious since Infinity War. Thanos gets it. There's one last scuffle between Iron Man and Thanos. Iron Man is knocked clear away. Thanos snaps, but nothing happens, because then you see all of the stones running up
because all the nanobots just grabbed it out of the Gauntlet. Moving up.
And then he says, I'm inevitable. Snaps doesn't work. Tony Stark says, I am Iron Man.
Which evidently that line wasn't scripted. He just said that. If that's the case, if that's true, perfect.
Pretty dope.
Perfect.
See, now I heard that he didn't want to say it whatsoever. One of his friends convinced him that he had to say it because the line was so possible. Or so powerful.
Okay.
So maybe...
Either way, it was perfect.
I loved it. I thought that was... We keep on talking about fan service and how good, McFeely and Marcus did, and how great of a job the Russo brothers did at really capturing this story and giving it to us in a way that we deserved. Well, and that moment was beautiful.
I like how he delivered it, too. He's struggling with that power that was now coursing through him, right? He's struggling to say, I am.
Yeah.
And then he has that moment of clarity where, he kind of tilts his head a little bit, has, a slight smirk, just, Iron Man, snap.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
And so, very quickly, everybody on Thanos' side disintegrates. The war is over. We've won, but we lost a hell of a great guy. You see some hardcore sorrow from Peter Parker, because to Peter, it's only been however long he, I think it's been whatever period of time, but I don't think he has any relevance. I think he was just with Tony Stark, and then all of a sudden
he just lost 5 years.
Yeah, and then he was back. All of a sudden there was no Tony Stark. Now he sees Tony Stark again as he's dying. So really, to Peter, I think there's been no time between this great relationship, because he was just in New York helping Tony Stark rescue the Wizard. Now very quickly he's on this other planet. Everybody disappears. He comes back. He's back on Earth now. And he watches his mentor
and
die.
He got literally a 5-second, hey man, he even said, the Blue Wizard guy told me it's 5 years have been passed, and we're all dead, but not really dead, or whatever. It's just been crazy.
Yeah. But then you see, how much sorrow is in Peter when he realizes the full weight. Oh no, this is legit. This is bad.
That honestly bummed me out more than Tony and Pepper's moment.
Really?
Yeah, because it's to your point earlier. I agree that I think Pepper knew it was going to end. So, she's already accepted it, it sucks, but, she knows she's already accepted it's here. And then you get Peter Parker, who, just got kicked in the dick with, hey, man, this mentor, sponsor, father figure in your life just died.
Yeah.
And, you didn't have the time Pepper did to, come to terms, accept it, and go through those 5 stages of grief or whatever, and really get to her to where she can accept that happening. It's hitting him hard.
Yeah. And he's young. I mean, he's
for sure.
In the timeline, he's supposed to be 16 or 17, I think. He's right.
Yeah.
He's right in that age, and those are hella big emotions for a person that's supposed to be that age. So obviously for Pepper, who's so used to losing Tony on a regular basis anyway, but I think you're right. She's already had that time. She's already made her peace with it. So when she had Friday Vitals, she expected that. She knew it. She could see it.
And that's I think that's proven by the whole "you can rest now."
Yeah.
She knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. So then we go to the funeral, which is sad as shit.
Super sad.
We pretty much have a display of all of the franchises that we've been spending all of our money on, which I thought was cool that it did in that order. We got, that one boy from Iron Man 3, which I thought was really cool that they brought him back. When Tony was like the mechanic in that garage and that kid can't whatever.
Yeah, see, I hadn't seen Iron Man 3 either, so I had no idea who that kid was.
Iron Man 3 is great.
And it was either you or Nick told me who that was. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool as hell.
Yeah. So that was a really cool nod. And then you get to see like a little moment with Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch talking about who they lost, talking about Natasha, talking about Vision. I wish I could just let her know that we won. And Scarlet Witch saying they do know. But then I think that was an allusion to WandaVision, which is coming out, because I think Scarlet Witch is about to go insane and create that reality so she could tell Vision, hey, everything is okay.
Isn't she the one? The whole House of M storyline where she just wiped out all the mutants' powers?
Yeah.
Dope.
You have another sad moment between Happy Hogan and Morgan, about, are you hungry? You want cheeseburgers? Did you know your dad liked cheeseburgers?
I'll buy you all the
cheeseburgers you want. The actress they picked to pick that girl was perfect. She's the perfect age. She had the perfect training to pull that off. Those were like some really sad-ass moments. And then you have Thor relinquishing the throne to Valkyrie. And then he joins the newly christened Asgardians of the Galaxy. There's some fun interplay between that. And I really like the concept of, Thor thinking, for the first time in 1,000 years, I have no path. So instead
just do whatever I want.
Yeah, so instead of me being who I thought I was supposed to be, the king of Asgard, you take the reins, you're going to do a much better job than I am.
I do like that he passed it off to Valkyrie.
Me too. She's great.
Yeah.
A lot of redemption stories in this. We see Quill searching for Gamora as Thor boards the ship, and there's some really fun interplay between the crew, like Drax saying, like, I think you guys should fight for who's going to control, and then Nebula saying, well, that's fair, and
Rocket was like, I got guns. I think, was it Drax said something about knives instead, and then you get Mantis in the background. Oh, use knives.
So I don't remember what the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie is. I don't think it's been worked on yet because dude's working on the next Suicide Squad.
I have no. Yeah, because that was, James Gunn.
Yeah, James Gunn got fired.
And then rehired.
Started working for DC. They realized how bad they screwed up, so he got hired back. So he's got to do Suicide Squad first.
I think they have, the base premise, and I think they have a script. I'm not positive on that, but they might have a script. They have it. They just don't have an official release date yet. Okay. It's still in its infancy.
It hasn't been written yet. But I'm excited to see what they do with that.
Oh, for sure.
Do we need to pause?
No, I'm just stretching.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're almost done. We've been going for an hour. We're an hour and 44 minutes in.
Yeah, did not expect this to go this long.
Well, and so for future episodes, not every movie is going to be as complicated as Endgame.
Yeah.
But I figured if we're going to do this, let's go ahead and...
Well, then, every series, TV series and whatnot, their pilot episode's always, twice as long as every other episode.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you gotta set the groundwork.
There's a couple endings here. We have Cap's journey to return all the stones, and there's a couple things here. I had several questions over what Bucky knew, because I'm gonna miss you, buddy. Don't do anything stupid. Well, you're taking all the stupid with you. It just seemed very much like the way
Bucky knew.
The way that Sebastian Stan plays it, it made it feel like he knew. He's got a full memory of all the things that they have been doing during that time period, whenever. But I don't know how or why or whatever.
So again, read some things, don't know how factual they are, because I'm not fact-checking shit.
Okay.
One of the things I read was that Bucky did know that prior to this, Steve told him, I'm going back and I'm staying back. When I finally show back up, I'm gonna give Falcon the shield.
Yeah.
Which, I so badly, both Falcon and Winter Soldier at some point in time take on the mantle of Captain America, and I wanted Bucky to do it then.
Right.
Because dude's been through the ringer.
Right.
I wanted that to be his moment of hey man, shit's kind of hit the fan for you. 24/7. You're better now. You got your mind unscrambled.
Yeah.
You know what, man? Step into this role. Be a badass. But at the same time, I get why they gave it to Falcon.
Yeah.
Because, Bucky still has to be Bucky. I think he's through the worst of it, but I think he still probably has a couple things to work out.
I think so too. I think Bucky's character is so solid on its own.
True.
That I would rather see a Winter Soldier thing, whatever, and then see Falcon as Cap or Falcon with the shield. I think I like that way better.
Is it either a movie or a series?
I think it's a TV show
with the two of them just broach
Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
which I'm okay with.
I can't wait. Yeah, because I think it was in Civil War where they're both in the little VW bug when Agent 13 is giving all their gear back, and then I think it's Bucky in the back. He's saying, "Hey, can you move your seat up?" And Falcon's like, no.
Well, that or in that same movie when they're in the airport terminal fighting with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, they just have a pretty solid... They click in the fight.
Oh, yeah.
They're just the dialogue between the two of them. And, like, with Spider-Man, like, I think Falcon delivers a line of, like, this is the most talky fight I've ever been in. 'Cause
yeah.
Peter can't shut the hell up.
Well, and then I think at the end of that part, there's a point where they both get their asses beat.
They're on the ground, webbed to the ground.
And then Falcon's like, I hate you. And so, for those reasons, I can't wait to see that show.
For sure.
I think that'll be really cool. And so, Cap goes back in time. He's got to return the hammer as well to the timeline.
Which, like, how? He can't just skilly bop onto Asgard.
Why not? Really, if you think about it, he could put that hammer anywhere in that timeline, and Thor can summon it.
That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
I think he just...
No, I mean, like, in that specific year.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, no.
Oh my god.
But no, I agree with that. I think he just time teleported somewhere. Yeah, that's about right. And just chucked it.
Yeah, just chucked it in the
like
ocean.
In a ditch or something.
If he wants it, he'll get it. It's fine. And then just went and returned all the other stones.
Because, like, Thor and everyone are obviously used to Mjolnir taking forever to get there. Because I literally think he just leaves it wherever the hell.
Yeah.
Because no one can pick it up. He doesn't worry about someone stealing it.
And I bet you he did that one last. I bet you he used the hammer to get everything back just in case, he had some extra firepower. And then the last thing he does is, it goes back to Asgard, chucks it in a trash can, and then goes back to, his original time to have that one last awesome slow dance with Peggy. Which I thought was cool because,
he deserved that.
Oh, yeah. What really would have happened is clothes would have been just ripped off and thrown everywhere, but, they can't really do that.
I mean, this is a children's movie, technically. I think he absolutely 100% deserved his happy ending. They've confirmed that throughout all the movies, Captain America never knew who her husband was.
Right.
But it's been confirmed that it was him.
Yeah.
It was that version of him when he went back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people are like, well, how are you going to have two Caps? I mean, it kind of works. And now he can just do literally whatever the hell he wants. Yeah. And there's still Captain America, bebopping around. Mm-hmm. He gets his happy ending. I did see one thing, too, and it's total bullshit, but it made my heart so happy that, like, the Mr. Rogers TV show, Steve Rogers went back in time, him being who he is and always trying to do good and trying to help, he couldn't just sit idly by and do nothing. So he created that show to help mold the youth and, like, help them be better people and always do the right thing and all this shit. And we got the Mr. Rogers TV show.
Nice.
God, I want that to be real.
That's I love that very much.
Right? It makes my heart happy.
Yeah. Do you remember when Peggy dies in, I think it's Civil War, right? Agent Carter dies? Because he leaves
carrying the thing.
Yeah, he goes to the funeral and he carries or whatever. There's a point where she's like in her hospital bed and she has kind of what looks like a fit of Alzheimer's. She knows him, they're talking, and then she blanks out and comes back and then starts crying. It's been so many years. I miss you so much. I actually don't think that's about Alzheimer's. I think that's about the time jump. I think that's the difference in time between that version of Peggy
one that has
him.
Because he's back.
The one that has a full understanding of what she knows she's going to get Steven back someday. I think she knows that in that moment. But then when there's like that little glitch that happens, I think that's the difference between the two. I think that's the original timeline where he was gone and she was devastating, and this is the first time he's seen her in 70 years or however long it was.
Shit.
But then the other one I think is the actual storyline where he goes back and has that whole life with her. I think that's who that is.
I like that.
And I didn't pick up on that until I think a month or two ago when I was watching the movie.
I like that a lot.
You're welcome. I thought that was
cool. I didn't say thank you.
And you'll never have to. So then that brings us back to present time where Cap is gone. The professor says, well, he blew past his timestamp. I think it's Bucky who turns, looks at the bench and says, Sam. And then Sam goes
go on
to see a very old Steve Rogers who's got the shield.
Here's my question.
Sure.
He blew past his time stamp.
Yep.
Do you think he just went, with everything on him, went straight back to where we see him slow dancing in that living room, and then just as he gets through the years, like, oh shit, it's 1952, just flicks the Power Stone out into oblivion? Or do you think he actually, like, jump, put them all back, and his last stop was seeing her?
I think he wanted to be done. I think
that makes sense.
I think that's what makes that moment so powerful is when you see him dancing with her. That's when the mission is over. Everything is back.
He went home.
And again, I love, the more we talk about it, the more I love the idea of him just throwing the hammer anywhere in Asgard and then just going home. I think
Like, I picture literally like a portal opens up and you see like his torso and head look through, looks around. Yeah, that'll work. Just tosses it in a field.
And there's like some guy just like eating a sandwich or something that he just sees like the other half of it, like a giant hammer just destroys something. He's like, what the fuck?
Oh, no. I like your In the Ocean better. It's a guy fishing. Like, you just see Steve Rogers, Captain America. Yeah, that'll work. Tosses it. But it hits the water with such force, it creates this giant geyser, just soaks this dude on his boats. And he's just like, what the hell?
And it's, it's lightning, so all these fish just start like bubbling to the surface. It's like, oh.
You know what? Not even mad now. Start scooping them up in a net.
But yeah, I think he didn't go back to see her until everything was done. That's what I think.
That makes more sense. Because, yeah, it does add to the whole, like, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
Eat dicks. Yeah. I'm going to hang out with her.
So then you have the moment where Falcon goes up to Captain America. They're talking about the shield. Oh, that reminds me. He unzips it, kind of pats it a little bit.
Tells him to take it.
Yeah, take it, try it on. He does. He's like, it feels like it belongs to somebody else. And Steve just says, it doesn't. So then you see Bucky, who's nodding at Falcon to take the shield up, to put it on.
Doesn't he also make the comment it feels heavier than I thought it would?
I think so, yeah.
Because, like, if that's true, like, I think that's kind of a nod to, like, he understands how the responsibility he's picking up.
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
shield.
absolutely. You're a good man, Sam, kind of thing. I think Sam encompasses all the qualities that Steve Rogers wanted for Captain America. So we see Steve running through that support group during the 5 years of the decimation. You also saw Sam doing that earlier when, they're passing on the left kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where Sam kind of comes from. That's where all that started. Sam started as a VA rep doing those support groups. That's how they kind of met or whatever. So I think...
Do you think that's why Cap did those support groups?
I think
like
so.
A nod to him?
Yeah, I think as kind of, picking up that mantle. Sam would have been doing that, but he wasn't around. And I think that's a really good showcase of how they were so similar in their character, which is what that was supposed to be. The reason that Steve Rogers was picked wasn't because of his strength, wasn't because of his body, it was because of his character.
He jumped on a grenade in boot camp just because he thought it was real.
God, a moment for Tommy Lee Jones just being in the Marvel movies because he's so incredible as an actor. So after everything's kind of over, we go through all the credits. We all stayed like we all were, we're all going to regardless of what we read.
It's been 3 hours and I feel like I'm literally about to piss myself in the seat, contemplating taking the lid off my empty slushy cup to pee into it.
Or just hosing down the row in front of me. I mean, whatever.
They'll be fine. I like to pretend they're going to clean anyways.
So we don't see anything, but we do hear just, hammering. Now, what do you think that was?
So it's been so long since I've seen the first Iron Man.
Okay.
So, I didn't make the connection of, that was the supposed sound file from, when Tony was building his first Iron Man suit in the cave and all that shit. Mm. So, if that's it, I don't know. I think it's kind of, leading to not so much him because, he's dead, but I think it's, a nod to someone picking up the Iron Man mantle.
Yeah.
And, there's a couple ways they can go about it. In the comics, they have, I think her name's Ironheart. This chick who's brilliant picks up the mantle of Iron Man, basically. Cool. She has a sick fro, and I don't know how she fits it in the helmet. But, actually, I take it back. I don't think she has a full helmet. I think it's a weird, visor face thing where her face is still up, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But there's also talk of possibly his daughter growing up and taking over.
Morgan, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because there's that moment where she comes out wearing the helmet, and he's like, what are you doing? That's a present for your mom. And I thought that was a really cool nod at, what if the Young Avengers are, Cassie as the new, Wasp or Ant-Man or whatever they do with her, and then you have Morgan who could become, Iron Lad or whatever, and, you have...
Lass.
Was it Lila who could be the young Hawkeye? Because he, Clint even calls him Hawkeye, so I think that there's a lot of potential for that. So maybe that is a segue into the future building of the new Avengers or something. I don't know.
I would like that, because I don't... The thing I don't want is I don't want them to pass the mantle on to Pepper Potts.
Correct.
Not because I don't think she could do it, because you could do that story and have it make sense, but in this timeline, in this universe, the MCU, Pepper Potts has been through a shit show.
Yeah, man.
I don't think she would even want to do it.
Yeah, and really, from a parental standpoint, your dad's already gone. I'm not going to risk you losing the only other thing that's here. Yeah. So I definitely think that she'll play a cursory role, but I think that's why they introduced Happy Hogan so much in the Spider-Man franchise, because I think that's going to always now be our link. I think the Tony Stark link will always be between Peter, Happy, and then that world. And we'll get hints of it in the Avengers properties going forward, but I think those are going to be the capstone ones. Okay, so now, here we are. It's all been building to here for the last 2 fucking hours. What would we do if we could retcon Avengers Endgame? What would we change? Why would we change it? And how would we change it?
Okay, so I know you have me going first.
I do.
But why don't you go first? Because your main gripe is also, I have a section on that too, so I can use yours as a segue into mine and then go into all the shit I would change.
Okay. If I were to retcon anything, it would be specifically about the dynamic of the professor. Because I hate that they did that. Because when they chose to take Bruce and the Hulk and combine them into Professor, they killed Bruce Banner and they killed the Hulk, and I think they cheated out both characters and us out of what potentially could have been a really awesome story. The entire concept of the Incredible Hulk storyline is him trying to get comfortable with himself. In the earlier movies, completely losing control, and like the first one in breaking Brooklyn. And he even makes that joke, and I think in one of the Avengers movie, last time I was in Brooklyn, I broke it.
That was with, what was his name, Norton?
The first one was with Eric Bana. That was the first Hulk that we got that nobody really liked or could figure out or whatever. It was kind of weird. I thought it was cool, it just wasn't as big. But that was them taking a swing at it. So then they rebooted it with Edward Norton.
Which is the first one I remember.
And so I think that was the one that gave us Thunderbolt Ross. Liv Tyler was in that one. If I'm wrong, please let me know. So, I mean, that was a really cool story because in the beginning, Edward Norton's Bruce Banner retreats to, Bolivia because he's trying to get a hold of his rage. He's still in that moment trying to figure out how to deal with this thing. How do I control my emotions? And he's literally meditating and having a guy slap him in the face so he can see how he responds to pain, how he can respond to that. He's trying so hard to get a grip on who he is. So then we get into, the new rebooted kind of Avengers Cinematic Universe with Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner. There's too many names, but it's still that same story of him trying to get control of his emotions. And I think that's why it was such a big deal in the Avengers, where, he kind of messes with Natasha. He slams his fist on that table in that little shack, and then she pulls a gun on him, and then you see that the entire compound was surrounding that house because he had total control over his emotions at that point, and he just wanted to see what they did, what they thought of.
Didn't he do that just to see if she had a full, guard detail?
Because she told him it was just her, and it wasn't. I think that was them kind of feeling each other out. So that shows me that, Bruce Banner was really getting a grip on that. So then it takes you through all these other things. You see this interplay between Bruce and Natasha. They're kind of talking a little bit. She really, reveals that she can't have kids. He says that, I can't give you anything like that. And he's still struggling with who he is and what the world sees Hulk is, because they see Hulk as a curse. And there's that part where the Scarlet Witch infects the Hulk's mind, and he just goes bananas, and he sees the fear. He sees how much people are afraid of him, and he's really struggling with that concept, the curse of the Hulk. So even though he's got himself under control, the Hulk is still completely uncontrollable, impossible to control. So then there's this whole issue with him, deciding for the first time to take over his own, the Hulk acting on behalf of both of them to stay in the Quinjet and to leave the planet. As much as they love Natasha, clearly they both do. Natasha's the only one that can get Hulk to revert back to Bruce Banner, because once he Hulks out, he can't control it anymore. So then for Hulk to take the wheel, to go to what becomes Thor Ragnarok, and for the first time we see a complete isolated version of the Hulk.
Who can talk.
He can talk, he's got his own friends, he's not only doing well, he's thriving on a new planet in a way that Bruce Banner never would have been able to do. And, the Hulk for the first time is completely accepted. He's a champion, he's beloved, they're having parades in his honor, people love this guy. And the Hulk is very much a fully realized person. He doesn't need Bruce anymore, he's got his own thing.
Got that sick skull bed.
It's so, that sick skull, he's naked, he's in a hot tub and stuff, he's eating snacks and
Who
stuff.
doesn't want a hot tub in their bedroom?
Yeah, it's amazing. He's got a better life than Bruce Banner has had for most of his. But then there's all this issue with with the loss of control, where Hulk drove for however long that period was.
3 years, I think.
But now Hulk gets his ass beat by Thanos, and then you see the complete retreating of the Hulk. So then Bruce can't even activate him anymore. He can try to bring him to the surface, but even then Hulk is just screaming, "No, I don't want to do this with you anymore. I don't want to be a part of it." And then it's this really sad story of the breaking apart of that team dynamic. And then how they fix that, the professor says that, I got it worse because Hulk lost and then Banner lost. So I figured let's mix the brains with the brawn and put them together. And I think by doing that, you shortchange the actual coming together of those two personalities. What would have worked a lot better for me would have been if they kept them as two isolated units that can flow back and forth at will, because they did truly work together. By creating the Professor storyline, you kill both of them. By keeping both those characters isolated, but make it easier for them to flow back and forth like Venom, almost. Yeah. The Venom suit can come on and come off at will. If you can make that would have been, I think, a more interesting storyline of we're in this together. I'm going to do this stuff, you're going to do that stuff. And even by making that decision, I think you still maintain everything. Everything still stays as powerful as it was. You still have the issue with the grieving and loss from Black Widow's death because both of them loved her. Both of them feel that sorrow. And then you still have the moment with the Gauntlet, you know, when they're trying to figure out who takes it. And in that moment, you could have Bruce even have some inner dialogue with the Hulk, and the Hulk saying, it's like we were made for this. And then for him to Hulk out then and grab the gauntlet and put it on. So not the Professor doing it, but the Hulk deciding to do that, to take it on himself. And then being so damaged that they know that if Hulk were to ever revert back to Bruce Banner, that Bruce Banner would die. So it would be both of their decisions to make that choice on behalf of everybody. So now you have the opposite, where actually now it's Hulk forced to go on with Banner in the back seat.
You could also then have that segue into the Professor Hulk then, of them just kind of like, that happened, can't go back to Bruce.
Yeah, so now let's try to bring something, and that would have been more comfortable. Yeah. But I think that you still see a devastated mourning Bruce and Hulk, but then you also see the payoff, I think, of Hulk making that decision to sacrifice and Bruce being along with him. I just think that would have been a better dynamic of a story than just having, you know, let's just make him a really smart, strong guy, as opposed to a really dumb, strong guy.
Which, I mean, really, he's just like a roided out nerd now. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just
pick on me in gym class.
There was just so much that I hated about that Professor scene in the diner where he's dabbing and he's eating and come on, I feel like I'm the only one eating here. Oh, he's embarrassed. You know, he's
your mom. She knows best.
Yeah, stay in school. Dab. I was like, why? All of that is detracting from how powerful this story could have been. And even like it was all sight gag. Like that was all humor that I didn't need because we were still in a very serious story.
And still a very serious moment.
In a serious story. And I just didn't need all that. And it was a joke. Like Black Widow even says, "Well, there's a point where you didn't think this was possible," and I'm like, that. What is that? That doesn't do anything for me. Like that's a weird inside joke that you guys have.
And like, this whole like, look at me, I'm wearing pants now.
Yeah, I just hated it. It was just such a disservice to.
Or was it wearing
both.
a shirt? But anyways.
Yeah, but shirts or pants or whatever it is.
He's clothed.
I just think it would have been such a better story if they maintained those two separate dynamics and then let them grow together.
I like that.
So that's, honestly, of the entire storyline, I mean, you're way more in the weeds with the comics than I am, but from what I saw, from what I was able to derive and receive and all the other stuff, I just think that was the one thing that I would have changed if I had the opportunity to do it would have been that Banner storyline.
So I have 3 things, and in the interest of not taking an hour to say my 3 things, I'm gonna like speed through these.
Okay.
First one is Nebula. Okay, so a lot of the stuff I want to happen has already happened because the Marvel's using the multiverse theory. So like the comic universe, all 800 of them, and like the cinematic universe exist side by side in this grand scheme, right? So like a lot of the stuff I'm gonna pull from it comes from the Earth 616 universe. Mm-hmm. Where the Infinity Crisis happened. Fun little thing. Into the Spider-Verse, when Kingpin first fires up that little reactor thing, and that shows a screen of all the 5 universes. Mm-hmm. 616 is one of them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Nice. But anyways, so like my main thing is like, first of all, like Nebula played, I don't want to say a bigger part, but a bigger part. Mm-hmm. Like, so Thanos' whole motivation was trying to impress Mistress Death because he's just in love with Death and Mistress Death.
Right. Very emo.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a phase, Mom. So, like, she gave him a task of wipe out half of all life in the universe. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's going to take so long. I'm going to go get the Infinity Gems, make a gauntlet, and snap that shit.
Okay.
So, like, he does that, but doesn't snap right away. Can't figure out why she doesn't love him. No. Like, one of the things he did was he brought Nebula back, but in this, like, zombie, half dead, half alive, but can't die thing that's just in constant pain, but is, like, brain dead at the same time.
Yikes.
And, like, Mistress Death is just like, what the fuck is that?
Ew.
Get that out of here. So, Thanos does the snap, and then the whole thing unfolds, and it comes to this huge thing. Well, eventually, he gets to the point where he finally defeats all of the Earthbound heroes. He defeats all of the Celestials and cosmic beings. Mm-hmm. The last dude to fight is Eternity, mm-hmm. who is the physical representation of everything.
Nice.
Hence the name. He's been there since the beginning and all that shit, right? So Thanos gets to the point like, I'm gonna take his job and I'm gonna be Eternity.
Yeah.
So they brought out Thanos wins.
Nice.
He then takes on like the cosmic form of Entity, which is like a face in the stars. Basically, it's kind of lame, but whatever. Leaves his body sitting on his throne because, and I quote, "I don't need that."
Right.
Like so, Nebula in her zombie form just walks up, sees the gauntlet, and like, alright, cool. Takes it off his body, puts it on herself, which then reverts him back to normal,
nice.
Titan asshole, and she restores herself back into Nebula.
Okay.
And then just starts wrecking shop and does all kinds of crazy shit. Throws Thanos into deep space with Taraxia, which is like a woman he made for himself.
Ew.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. But like throws them off into space, starts doing shit. Like it's crazy. Like had such a huge part. It wielded the gauntlet for a time.
Yeah.
And like, and then we get the the movie where it's just like, hey sister, like, hi sis, you want to like, we could be sisters.
And she had a couple cool moments, and she was like. She was a lot of like she was a plot mover. She would take stuff and she would move it forward. She was the bridge. She got everybody back, and she served her purpose. But I see what you're saying, where she could have done a lot more.
And I get like the whole thing with the multiverse theory is like Earth 616 that happened, and then the cinematic universe that happens. Like they both happen side by side. So like I get. Well, we can't really do it here because it already happened there.
Yeah.
But still, I would pull more in. So, like, maybe not have her operate in that same capacity, but, like, let her wield the gauntlet for a minute, maybe, or just even have more of a role in it, as opposed to just, like, hey, your brain Wi-Fi hooked up with past Nebula's brain Wi-Fi, and now we know what's happening, and now we captured you and are torturing the shit out of you and kicked the shit out of you.
Let me borrow this piece of your face,
so they think I'm you.
I'm going to make her wear it.
Yeah. So, like, I would like to see her do... Not so much be in it more, because I think, she was in there an appropriate amount for, like, all the backstory they have with her, but I have seen her do more.
Right. Yeah, right on. So you said you had 3, so that was 1 of 3?
That was 1 of 3. Thing 2 would probably be, like, Thanos in general. Like, his whole motivation in the comics, which, like, I was telling you about this earlier, you just made the comment, it's just a shitty love story, and I agree with the whole, he's just trying to impress Mistress Death.
Yes.
But then, when that doesn't work, he snaps for a while and just goes crazy. Mephisto's in there for a bit and like kind of like helps breathe the insanity for a minute. And like there's this like the whole fight he has with all the Earthbound heroes is literally he's like, I tell you what, like Mephisto really walks up like, hey man, so like you're badass and all, but I bet Mistress Death would really like it if you showed how brave you were. Only use 1 stone.
Ooh.
So he's like, alright, cool, just the Power Stone. And he starts beating the piss out of all the Avengers with just the Power Stone. Like, he cheats and uses the Reality Stone once to, like, put a glass box around Cyclops' head, because the X-Men were there.
Yeah.
Well, some of them. Which I get, you can't put them in, because, like, licensing, we don't have the rights, and, like, Silver Surfer and Doctor Doom was there, but we don't have the rights. I get it. But, yeah, like, suffocates Cyclops with a glass box, turns Thor into glass, and shatters him.
Ooh.
And it's not Thor, Odin's son, it's Eric Masterson with the mantle of Thor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it'd be weird for them to do that, obviously, because, like, they've had no build-up whatsoever to that.
No.
So it's just him doing all this crazy-ass shit. Like, again, shatters Thor. Nova shows up, which he's another character. I'm not going to get into that, but turns him into children's building blocks. Like, literally, he just snaps and he just Legos on the ground. Which, like, stepping on that would be the worst. Like, just systematically destroys all of them in very specific ways. Like, Cloak from Cloak and Dagger. Mm-hmm. Cloak tries to swallow him in the Dark Dimension. He just rips his way out and destroys Cloak in the process. Yeah. All this cool shit. Just a lot more violent, a lot darker, a lot more brutal. And then we get the cinematic one where he's like stomping and just smacks them all away. And I mean, yeah, he straight up stabbed Iron Man in the gut with part of his own suit, which I think is a kick in the dick. Yeah. And, like, does do some hardcore shit. Like, rips the stone out of Vision's head and all that. I'm not saying, like, it wasn't brutal, but it could have been more tailored to each of the people he's trying to kill.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, just a little bit more there as opposed to just, I'm gonna wipe you all out, take stones, and bebop my way out of here.
And it's like you had to pick, like, if his motivation was like a love story with death, or me watching my entire planet die because they wouldn't listen to me. They thought I was mad when I said that we could do this thing to take out half the population and we would save us all, and then you didn't like that. I saw my planet die and I refused to let this happen to the universe.
And for the cinematic universe, that works. I like that story.
The simplicity of it. Yeah.
Yes. Because, like, my main thing, like, to do all the stuff I would do differently, they would have had to push back Infinity War and Endgame like another 5 years to get more movies in to do backstory, like to introduce the Celestials and all the cosmic beings, and like to introduce the Living Tribunal and all that shit. Like, you need so many more movies, and you don't have the time, you don't have the money. I mean, they have the money, but like we were talking about this earlier, it's you can't just dump all the money into this. You gotta kind of like go movie by movie, let it pay itself out, make some off it before you dive into something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, they did a solid job of laying the groundwork for them to get to Infinity War and Endgame and lay those movies out. Like, that all worked. Mm-hmm. And like, to do what I would have done, you'd need a whole shit ton more, and that just, it's not really feasible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have made the fight with Thanos more personal to each of the superheroes, in a sense. Mm-hmm. Like, he just like beats the piss out of each one of them in turn. And then maybe have the giant brawl, because like a fight with him happens like 3 or 4 times in the comics where everyone shows up.
Yeah.
And he just, again, time after time, just bitch slaps them all. So like, give him more of a fight with them, more dialogue between them, and a little bit more brutal would have been pretty badass.
I think that's why that ending fight between the three of them, Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, was so hardcore. And like, even the part where like they're literally like trying to press their swords into one another. When Thanos is just chopping like Cap's shield just to smithereens and stuff. Like, there's so much like raw, like scrappy power in that fight, and I think that really speaks to like, this is normally how he did. And like, there's a point I think in Endgame, it's when they're in the past and they have just discovered that Ronan the Accuser has the Power Stone, and you see Thanos completely covered in blood. He had been warring that whole day, and he just came home, and he's like, it was raining blood. He's completely covered in it, and he just wipes a little bit off the sword and then throws it away. Like, I think there's such a brutality there that we were just shown little pieces of, and then this one battle is actually us seeing how those scraps work. So it was cool.
So yeah, I would have liked to see more of that in there, but again, I get you can only do so much with the time you're given, and you gotta keep it kind of kid friendly, because I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, like, yeah, this movie's for us, but it's also for the younger generation, and you don't want them just straight up see Thanos suffocating Cyclops with a glass box, right? And literally blowing up Cloak, among other things, which
I think would have been cool, but Cloak and Dagger, the TV show, didn't work out.
No.
So, R.I.P. All right, so 2 of 3. What's your third?
Third one is Adam fucking Warlock. Why are you going to name drop him at the end of Guardians 2, knowing he has such a huge role in the Infinity Crisis, and then not give him to us in Endgame?
Sorry, bud.
No, I will not accept an apology.
Well, I just think they're trying to build the scaffolding, in my opinion, for like the Guardians universe. I think,
and I get that,
with Nova being destroyed, with Adam Warlock being alluded to in Guardians specifically, I think that there's like a whole bunch of stuff that they're about to do with like the space aspect of it, that we don't even know that they're about to do.
And that's fair, but I mean, like, again, Earth 616, Adam was so involved in everything. Like, he showed up, he's the one. Like, Silver Surfer showed up first and warned them about Thanos. Right. And then Adam shows up and starts getting the gang together and starts building the army. Starts like, look, guys, like, they touch soul, like him and Doctor Strange touch souls. Nice. They have a moment, and like, because he comes to Doctor Strange in a vision. Strange is like, how the hell am I supposed to trust you? I don't even know you, bro. Like, dude, let's touch souls. And he's like, nice. Oh shit, I trust you.
Docking solves everything.
Yeah, for sure. So like, he gets, with Strange's help and with the Silver Surfer help, gets everyone together, breaks down the plan, basically tells them like, you need to follow my plan exactly. Yeah. If you deviate any way, shape, or form, not only am I going to smack you, but it's also going to wreck everything, and our plan will fail, and Thanos will succeed, and everything's just shit.
Right.
So, like, he assembles everyone, gets the plan, sends them out, does the thing, I can just strategizes and just gets everyone where they need to be, doing what they need to do. He does like in 2 different conflicts. There's all the Earthbound heroes, which really honestly is just Operation Meat Shield.
Yeah.
Like he knows they're going to get their asses handed to them. It's just buying time and like kind of seeing if this is work so he doesn't have to bring in the cosmic entities.
Yeah.
Because that is a fight that could destroy the universe.
Right.
So like he does all this cool shit, fucking instigates the whole fight, stops everyone, gets the gauntlet from Nebula by going back into the Soul Stone, does some crazy shit, like goes into the Soul Stone, which is where he already was, overrides that to override all the rest of the gems, backfeeds all that power to force Nebula to take it off. And then everyone's in a dead sprint to it. He just like appears up out of it wearing it, and then you get that scene that everyone knows that just says let the conflict end. It's just him holding the gauntlets, wearing it, everyone else on the ground around him because they just dove at it, says the line, does a snap, and sets everything back.
Nice.
So like that would have been fucking awesome. And again, I get there's so much buildup that would need to take place for that. I'm not saying let's do exactly that because it's already been done.
Right.
But bring him in, have him play a part. It doesn't even have to be like the I ended the conflict with my own snap part, but just have him be there as like a background role of like kind of helping guide everyone to where they need to go and like in a similar capacity they did in the comics. And then, I mean, if you want, toss him the gauntlet. Because, like, at the end of it, that would lead into... And I don't know if they're doing this. I don't know if they plan on doing this, because I haven't been paying attention to their movie schedule. But then you have Warlock in Infinity Watch. And, like, there's a whole bunch of shit. And, like, his trial with the Living Tribunal. Because he gets the gauntlet, sets everything back, and then says, hey, I'm gonna be cool, all right? I'll be cool. He's like, I'm going to be a really cool god and just wear this gauntlet and just make sure everything's like, okay. He's like, you have my word. I won't be corrupted by it. I won't seek power and I won't just be a dick. I'm just going to watch over everything. And then for the most part he does, but then you run into this whole thing where like the Soul Stone's being corrupted and it's kind of corrupting him. So the Living Tribunal's like, hey, sport, I have the ability to just take that from you.
Nice.
Which like, again, the comics... And Eternity was all like, hey, Thanos has come to take my job, and Living Tribunals who could stop him in that second is like, and?
So do something about it.
It's natural, like literally says it's natural selection. Like if you can't fight him off, he deserves to have your job.
Fair.
Eat a dick. The door's over there, you nerd. So like, you know, later Warlock gets the gauntlet. He has to go on trial with the Living Tribunal. They decide that he's no longer like worthy of that power and that ability, so that's when they then split up the gems, and then you get Infinity Watch, where like everyone's tasked with guarding one of the gems. You get Marvel's Illuminati, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. What is it? It's Professor X and Reed Richards and I can't remember all.
A couple other people.
Iron Man's there.
I think Doctor Strange is there, maybe.
He might be.
Yeah.
But anyways, like you bringing Adam into this opened it up to do even more movies down the road. Yeah. And it's just, why not put him in this? He played such a big role. Why are you just going to name drop him and leave him out?
I think they knew what they were building toward. I think they already had their kind of players set, and they knew how they were going to use it to do it. I just think that they just didn't have the time or the budget to pull off this whole other thing. Yeah. But I think they'll get to that. There's no way they just floated out the idea of Adam Warlock at the end of Guardians. There's no way they just floated out Nova being destroyed without wanting to use them in the future in future space properties. So, I don't know. I think we'll see.
Which, I mean, now they do have a solid segue into Nova, the character, because, you know, once that planet and the Nova Core and all that was destroyed, his whole thing is he's the last one. He's the only one who could tap into that. Yeah. So, yeah, you have that segue for him. But it's just like, and again, you didn't even have to have Adam be as much of a badass as he was. But just have him in sort of like a guiding role so that he's there, we establish the character, and then you can do a prequel later explaining his origin, like they're doing with Black Widow. And again, it opens up to Warlock and, you know, Infinity Watch and all that other shit. So we can just splinter this story out in like, you know, quite a few different directions and still have those options.
Yeah. I think there's a ton of stuff they could have done. I'm really glad that they did it this way, with the exception of the Hulk storyline, which I hated so much.
So same. I love looking at the movie for what it is, for what they did, the story they built. I loved it. I really did. I thought they did a great job, but I wanted to see Adam Warlock.
Well, I think that you will, just not quite yet.
Well, you know what? That's not good enough.
Well, that's it for us here on the first episode of Retcon Air. Hopefully you liked it. I know there was a lot in there, but with a movie like this, I mean, I think you would have been shortchanged if we just ran through it really quick without referencing it. I think you can now see why Bryar and I love this property so much, because we had so much to say about it.
I would say sorry for taking so long, but I'm not sorry. You chose to listen to all of this.
So very much thank you, all 12 of you, for hanging out and listening. Just discuss one of
you to assume it's going to be 12.
the most impressive movie I think of our generation. I think Endgame in this whole series is probably one of the most impressive feats of, I don't know, fan service, comic book, whatever you want to call it. I think this is one of the most impressive feats of movie that we've ever seen. So
I mean, yeah, they've been going on for how long now? And like, just keep it rolling.
Yeah,
like, it's not getting.
It's incredible.
It's not getting old.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So if you're into what we did here, by the time you listen to this, there's probably going to be a Facebook, a Twitter, maybe YouTube or something else. We'll figure out places for this stuff to live. So Bryar, thank you for being with me for the last. Let's see, what do we do?
2.5 hours?
2 hours and 27 minutes. I appreciate you spending so much time. And I look forward to having you back on the show. I think next time when we get together, we're going to talk about Batman.
Yeah, I should probably finish that. Huh?
Yeah, you should probably finish that. Batman Arkham Knight.
Got another episode coming up for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child with my awesome wife.
With your wonderful, awesome wife, Shelby. Like I said, there's a ton of stuff. We're doing movies, books, TV shows, video games, Broadway shows. If it's got a good story, that we look forward to talking about it and letting you listen.
I'm more into it than anyone.
All right, guys.
Bye.